Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today.
You take that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But it was persistent. It was a lot of work for him because he ran. So my catch wrestling coach James, and him business partners, and they used to fight out of the same gym, and they trained under all the same guys, Eric Paulson and all that. And then they ran that business together. Matt decided I need to stop trading my time for money because I want to see my kids.
Yeah.
Set up online, and then they had a falling out because Matt basically turned around and said, "Look, I want to leave the business, and I want to focus on my online." It's come to a point where my online is making.
What made him want to make that decision? But like similar to where we're sat together today, I'm big on that people side of it. What made him do that shift? Because a lot of stuff you do as well. Yeah. You strike a balance. What is your balance? You haven't got to get personal into the finances, but do you know what I mean? Is it 10, 20? Is it 80% online? Where are you hitting that balance now?
With CPP, it's kind of half and half. It's very strange. It is kind of half and half because I have clients that I program through my app and stuff in like LA who used to be over here, who've moved back over there, and and then they've recommended me to their friends. So I've got a handful of guys, like a couple of female footballers, a couple of male jiu-jitsu guys in LA, I coach from London, which is pretty cool. But it's just programming and subscriptions. But Matt,
I know you're saying it's just that, but that
when you say to someone,
sometimes I'm just doing a program, to be honest with you, and you're like, but that's like the codes to the digit, if you know what I mean. It's like people say, it's just training, and you're like, but you can have all the numbers, but if you put them in the wrong order, you won't get the result. It's like a key safe. Do you know what I mean? So programming is a skill. As much as we diminish it and just go, it's 4 sets of 4, and you're like, well, not really though. But kind of, you're right, it is. But only if that's what you need. Do you know what I mean? It's easy. I always say it's easy to connect the dots looking backwards. Do you know what I mean? It's so easy when you go, well, that's all it was. Yeah, but it could have been 5 other different examples.
Oh, yeah, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, right?
Exactly. But you only hear the success story.
Yeah.
Like when you hear the athlete and you go, what was your training program? And they go, to be honest, I can't remember. It was a bit of this and a bit of that. You don't hear all the people that just tried to ad hoc it and got it wrong. Because we don't hear losers. That sounds horrible. Sorry, like failures or losers don't give seminars. You don't tend to hear them speaking on podcasts and that. I mean, sometimes we do, and we'll talk about failures and setbacks and stuff today. But you don't always hear the stuff that goes wrong. No. So it's easy to pass off the stuff that went right as the easy one because you don't hear the thousands of people that got it wrong or hurt themselves or went down a rabbit hole of bad practice. Yeah,
and a lot of people don't like admitting to failure or opening up and saying that the only reason they got better was because they failed initially. So a lot of what I learned through my S&C career was it is okay to fail as long as you know what you're failing at and adapt and overcome and develop and grow. And you've got to own that, but you need to be in a position to be able to do that. So it is quite challenging because you can't just destroy an athlete.
No,
because you ruin their career, you ruin your career, you ruin the team.
Hey folks, I wanted to jump in here and just share with you a really exciting update from our partner William Wood Watches. They are launching the first ever field watch collection. Now it's named Fearless, which firstly, I absolutely love, and this new collection is very different from anything they've ever launched before. However, you will see that they've managed to maintain some of the signature William Wood Watch elements. The big thing for me is that black fire hose. So they have got the first ever time they've done this, the black fire hose strap, and a really, really cool case back. So now the watches are available in 3 colors this time. These are red, orange, which is my favorite, and the yellow. Each watch features those straps that are made up from repurposed black fire hose. That stuff looks the absolute bee's knees, guys. They've never done that one before. So go and take a look at that. And they've also got a textured dial to represent charcoal. Honestly, I never know how they're going to keep going deeper with this. Every time they do, I'm like, where are they getting this from? But I know where they're getting it from because they're speaking to the boots on the ground. They're speaking to you, they're speaking to me, they're speaking to firefighters and frontline operators and getting just these amazing insights. The creativity in this is amazing. Now, the cases come down in size from 41mm to 40mm. And another new thing is they've got a unique firefighter helmet visor case back. So flip it on the back. In fact, go over to the website and you'll see the photos. That visor case back, guys, it just looks absolutely incredible. Now the watches are available to buy immediately, like right now, and they can be delivered within 24 hours in the UK and 48 hours from UPS collection in the US. The link to William Wood Watches is in the notes below this episode. You will not regret it. I am 100% putting this on my list. I'm going to be nagging them like crazy because I know you can pay in 3 stages as well. You haven't got to go in full whack on this. The new Fearless collection, William Wood Watches. Go check it out. I did want to ask you about that and the balance between things like training harder versus training smarter. Because as we're all getting a little bit older, a good friend of mine is just hurt himself. Similar to myself, actually. He's just over competing in a firefighter challenge competition. He just popped his hamstring. He literally just put something on Instagram. And what I wanted to ask, because he's done loads of jiu-jitsu, he's done loads of 360 MMA stuff, he's done loads of competing in different aspects. How easy is it to try and write a program or try and diagnose somebody when there's so much noise? Because like for an athlete like me, there's so much noise.
Yeah.
And there's so much people don't tell you. It's like when you go to the doctors, like a paramedic shows up and they're like, do you take any medication? And what's your history? And you're like, where do you want to start? Where do you want to start?
Yeah, so the way I like to think of training, and it's a very, very strange way to do it, and it resonates a lot with firefighters, I think. I like to think of training as food and cooking. Okay. And when you think about, like, I was thinking about you was asking about the question about 8-day periodization. How do we think about periodizing around our role as firefighters? Well, ultimately, periodization is a recipe card. It's principles. It isn't a definitive plan. It's planned in pencil, but it's principles. And you and me may make a lasagna. Yeah. And that lasagna is made of the same constituent parts. It's got pasta, it's got sauce, it's got cheese, it's got meat. Depending on what meat you like will depend on the quality of the meatiness, etc. in it, or how much protein content, how much fat you get, right? So you might like to put beef steak and a bit of pork because you like that flavour, whereas I might prefer richer tomato sauce. So when you think about periodization and you think about planning and programming, you've got to think about actually what is it that I require? What do I need? And nutrition as well is the same, isn't it? It's so individual. So so there is a lot of noise and there is a lot of stuff going on, but ultimately you get the recipe card, which is your periodization. You think about the constituent parts, which are your mesocycles, macrocycles, microcycles, however that is, and then you adjust those according to what your needs and desires are.
Pull back on that for me, because mesocycles and macrocycles, people may have heard of some of this stuff in like some of the fittest book on earth or whatever, Ross Edgley's. So some people may have seen a little bit of that. Without getting too clinical, because you'll probably lose me first, and then we might lose everybody else. Meso, macro. How does it work? What is that?
So macro's big. Okay. It's big goals, big plans, 6 months plus, Olympic cycles, whatever. Traditionally, everyone goes, it's a 12-month to an Olympic cycle. Okay. Because that's kind of how people look at it. That's the theory behind it. And then your mesos are your smaller chunks, your goals, your phases, and then your micros are your weekly or daily doses, and the nitty gritty integrated bits. And the micros are always, in my opinion, planned in pencil. So if you think about the cooking, your macro cycle is your lasagna. Yeah. Your mesocycle is the layers. How am I going to construct and put together each layer? How am I going to season each layer? What am I going to do with each constituent part to make my lasagna? Yeah. And then the micros are the process of cooking each layer. So as you're putting together your meat and sauce, you taste test. So, it needs a little bit more salt, or it doesn't need. What about if we throw a little bit of basil in there? How's that going to change things up? That's the way I like to think about periodization, to simplify it for people, because when you look at theory on periodization, Judah Bomper, those kind of guys, and Charlie Francis' Principles of Training, mind-blowing. And the first time I read them, I was sitting there going, holy fuck, how do I deal with it? And, and for me, that was kind of the way I broke it down and I've taught football coaches this method of think of it as your lasagna. Yeah. Because football coaches go, I can't get it. And I'm like, mate, you still eat, don't you?
Got to keep it simple.
Yeah. And that's kind of the way I look at it. And you've got to be able to plan in pencil, because you can't take salt out if you've had too much, or once. And another one I really like is once it's burnt. So if you're doing toast, you do it slower instead of just throwing it in for 4 minutes. Okay. No, so especially
how does that analogy carry into what would the burnt be in a training cycle, if that makes sense?
Yeah, the burnt would be now you're overtrained or injured. Yeah. So stress is stress. Body can't differentiate between stress. So that is the story of my life. Like I've always started probably thinking I'm in a macro,
and then thrown a whole bunch of mess in there, a whole bunch of supplementation, a whole bunch of enhancers, then dipped into the steroids and then gone snap.
Bang,
and I'm barely into like 7 or 8 weeks of like a meso. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I've blown it out the water.
Yeah.
And then trying to recycle back, skipping the rehab, thinking you've repaired and going straight into another thing when the body's not ready.
Yeah.
But equally, there's people at the other end of the spectrum who may think they have a long-term goal, like Christmas or like New Year's is always a good one. I'm going to do this. Yeah, I spoke to the person. It's going to take 3 months. It's a 3-month plan. But they get bored. Yeah. They get bored really fast.
That's where your planning pencil has to come in. Because it has to be adjustable daily according to what you need. It's not a case of, well, this is the plan, stick to it. Like all my clients that I work with online, I don't write them a program and that's it. It's on a subscription basis and it's weekly catch-ups, weekly monitoring, weekly adaptations. And sometimes the adaptations may be like finite little changes. But I've been in the industry for 12 years now and I've earned the right to make a small change and turn around to them and go, actually, what you need is still that stimulus, but only 10% more or less. You know, and
how do you gauge your feedback on whether a tweak is needed?
Oh, that's a good one. So
I know there's probably 1,000 answers to that. But
so some of the times you can get a good response from them with the training without them telling you. They're like, oh, it feels a little bit monotonous, and that's when you know when you need a little bit of a tweak.
How about if you're like trying to feel it in yourself? Because I know it's hard to draw it out of somebody else because you've got to have the right questions and they've got to be in the right mood to talk about it. But just in yourself, how would you know if you're like something needs a little bit of change? Because that self-awareness of burnout / boredom / procrastination / I'm really training hard, I'm just going through the motions. When do you know yourself?
Well, that is a very tough question, isn't it? Because
sometimes I feel like I need to lift heavy all the goddamn time, and it's only as I've gotten older how stupid and short-sighted that has been, and how much it's really cost me.
So there's tools you can use, depending on what you've got available to you. So there's things like a Fitbit to look at your heart rate and stuff like that, and you look at heart rate variability, and if you can see when you wake up in the morning your resting heart rate significantly higher, then you know actually physiologically I'm probably doing a little bit too much, but psychologically I might need something else. So it's actually...
What's your thought on whoop straps? Sorry to interrupt you.
I don't know the ins and outs of the science behind them.
Okay, let's zoom out. What's your thoughts on heart rate variability? Because that's theoretically some of the principles that whoop sits behind, or they say they sit behind.
Yeah, it's complex, very complex.
Useful indicator? Because people used to think it was like BMI. Well, I think, kick that into the long grass. It's not much of an indicator for me personally, BMI. Whereas heart rate variability, I think, is like a good indicator of fitness for me.
Yeah, it can be a very, very useful tool. Okay. But you need to be consistent, very consistent. There's no point collecting heart rate variability for a week and making an adaptation. You need like 3 months worth of data.
There you go. So I get you, but like that is a discipline in itself.
Yeah.
Because like before you, like someone goes, oh, this is who I am. What adaptations do I need to make? And you're like, I need a bit more data. Because realistically, when people go, oh, but you've just worked with that athlete and you've gone with the plan with them, probably because that athlete has a data set. Since they started when they were 17, any strategic athlete, they'll have come into a coach at some point. I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot of these as they start in their careers, encouraging them to say, look, you need to start a diary, you need to start a data set, you need to start collecting it monthly.
Simple stuff like morning monitoring, wellness stuff. Like a little questionnaire, rating yourself on 1 to 10. How good quality of your sleep? How many hours did you get? It's really simple stuff.
Yeah. Do you do that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All my clients have that on their app, so they get a notification.
I do gratitude, and I do like. I know that sounds a bit woo with some people, but I do that. I always try and get 8 hours now. I used to think like sleep's the cousin of death. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Grind it. Do you know what I mean? Snap, muscle gone. This, that. Sleep was a massive secret superpower for me. And you know what? Being honest with you, mate, I think I only picked it up like 4 years ago, if that. And I'm 32, 33 now. So really, I did a lot of damage. And I was my heaviest and my strongest when I was getting the worst amount of sleep. So I think there's so much correlation into that. How much sleep do you think we should be getting?
Yeah, I agree. Like 8 hours is a kind of ballpark figure because the data shows you that actually if you get 8 hours sleep compared to 7 or 6, your injury risk is massively reduced. Yeah. But it does depend on the individual. So
because it's big into like the sleep cycles, isn't it? I think most people should be getting 3 or 4 sleep cycles. And when you feel your partner or whatever shift in the middle of the night, that's usually them lifting out of a sleep cycle and into another one, isn't it? And then I think the worst thing you can do is interrupt the sleep cycle, can't you? Like if you set your alarm for whatever 5 a.m, but you wake up at 4:30, don't go back to sleep because you're probably going to get up half or just as you're entering a sleep cycle and feel rough as arseholes.
Yeah, a lot of the kind of information in and around sleep cycles is everything's done in 90-minute cycles, isn't it, to get into that deep REM and actually get a decent quality sleep. So some of the ways, so like even 8 hours probably is wrong, but the way you think about it is how can you backtrack from when you want to wake up to know when you should go to bed. And it is difficult, especially in our role. Like sometimes you get 6 hours, sometimes you get 6 minutes, you know, and you're like, oh my God, I've just shut my eyes and everything's bright and screaming at you. And you're lying there going, oh, my heart's pounding out my chest. And you're like, but there's some data from LA that shows cardiac strain on when the bells go down is really high. So, you know, our line of work isn't great for cardiac health unless you look after yourself.
And just cortisol levels and everything, really. The level of that spike, how quickly it brings you up and brings you down all the time.
Well, one of the papers was looking within the LA Fire Department was looking at they had an ECG and they was looking at kind of the cardiac rhythm, and then they showed that every time the bells went down, the firefighters essentially their heart skipped a beat, and that's not healthy. So you know, and then they were looking at all the carcinogens and stuff like that as well. But yeah, when I read that, I was like, wow, okay, and this is what I'm now signing myself up for. So, you know, and then you're looking at it going, well, what can I do to, well, you can't counter that. What can I do to kind of reduce my injury risk? Because you see a lot of firefighters when they retire within, like, depending on where they were and how they've lived their life, but you see them go pretty quick. Within 5-10 years. And it's a short shelf life. And you're like, fuck me, like, you've worked all that time to retire early and you've gone early as well. So, 100%. And, you know, there's a lot to be said about keeping busy and people keeping themselves.
How much of that do you think is a mental aspect as well, though? Because there's this whole aspect of like having a purpose, the body feeling a sense of fulfillment, a sense of, you know, recognition, whether it's from a group or a pack or their just the wider sense of having a reason to get up in the morning and do something. Is a massive part of people's identity. As much as they think it's not.
Animals, right?
We're social animals. We like to get that recognition. We like to feel like we're adding value to the pack. And when you retire, you can get a little bit lost. That's why I always say to people, you know, what you can do when you retire. And they're like, oh, I'm doing nothing on my sit. And I'm like, you're fucking dead. That's what you're going to be doing. I'm not saying what job are you going to have to do. What do you want to do? And you know, there's the irony that you should be doing that already, but what are you excited about? What are you interested in? I don't care if it's like making furniture or painting or sailing or taking your grandkid around the world or caring for your partner. I don't care what it is. What is it though?
You need to have a purpose.
For God's sake, don't think, oh, I'm just going to like, don't know, you know, I was just looking forward to doing nothing. I'm like, dude, that's not a goal.
No.
You know, do you know who's doing nothing? Dead people.
You'll be doing plenty of nothing when you're dead.
That's what you're idolizing towards. I wanted to ask you on sleep. Are you napping? Are you a napper? Do you nap?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
When does a nap become a sleep? What's the time? For you?
Well, this is the thing. It's always been that like power hour, isn't there? You know?
Do you think?
Yeah, I think.
Hour's too long for me. I think that's sleep.
Yeah, okay.
I can do it,
mate. I think if I get if I manage to get an hour, I'm a happy chappy. You know, but the likelihood is in my household with my 2 young kids that I won't get an hour. But anything more than that, and it's really, really strange because you look at the sleep cycles and rhythms and stuff like that. They're saying you should be getting like 90 minutes, right?
Yeah, I know.
I can't do that.
No,
because then I wake up really rough.
Yeah.
You know, so for me that doesn't work. But
I always set 25 minutes on my phone. I don't know why. I didn't get it from anywhere. But that just felt like an appropriate nap.
Okay.
I don't know why. But when I wake up from that, it's almost like I get a second hit of the day. I almost do my morning routine again. Because you can build, I don't know, maybe I'll build it into a lunch hour, but like I can nap and then stretch on the floor for like 10 minutes, just loosen everything off, and then just feel Olympic and I'm ready to go.
Nice.
I don't think it's that I would feel worse if I did an hour. But I'd feel like just a bit of a lazy bastard.
You'd lost an hour.
There's that.
Again,
and
so
that probably secretly triggers my anxiety of like, oh shit, you've got stuff to do. Come on, you keep saying that you're doing stuff when you're not though. You're lying around. Yeah,
but does that then go into your deep-rooted issues of actually, like you said, right? Your understanding of what sleep is and how sleep is to you. So your relationship with sleep is now then determined, actually, I don't want to nap as much.
Yeah.
So when I was at university...
I've got a bad relationship with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I look at it like it's a devil, but it's like, dude, I'm here to help you. And I'm like, no, I don't want too much of you.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck?
So when I was at uni, I was balancing uni, work, training, all this sorts of stuff. And my goal was to just live on 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I was, because you're looking back at it and there's all this stuff in the like papers in it. This professional, they lived on 4 hours sleep, rah, 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 and all this. And you're like, well,
glorify it.
Yeah, it was massively pushed. And you're like, well, if I want to be successful, I need to get used to 4 hours sleep.
Success, yeah.
And then as I've wisened up to it, I'm like, nah, man, that's just killing me, you know, and I'm doing my best to kind of get the 6 to 8, obviously with the kids and the work and stuff like that. You can't on duty, can you? You know, it is what it is. But you get the naps in the day.
Did you see much performance enhancing stuff in university or anything like that? Because when I was big into my studies, I took Adderall because I just fell into that trap. And Adderall, for anyone that's unsure, I'm probably going to get it wrong. Please correct me. It's a type of amphetamine. Am I right in saying that?
In all honesty, I've not.
Have you not? So you know the film Limitless?
Yes, yeah.
Based on that.
Right, okay.
It's big with university students and stuff like that. So, and it basically just keeps you awake for an indefinite period of time. But you don't get the massive spike and crash with like masses of caffeine. And I started taking it when I was working on the doors and stuff like that as well because I wanted to be awake all night. And I didn't want to take other stuff. But it is illegal and it's not good for you. No. It's not good for you at all.
No, see, no.
And I know a lot of uni students did it.
Yeah, see, when I was studying, there was a bit more of like the ECA stack, so feed your caffeine and aspirin stack.
Talk people through why that stack, why people thought that stack worked, and it did to an effect, because I used to use it a little bit like that for training. It's like a T5, T3 analogy as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so the stimulant kind of base behind it, the idea, I believe, and I'm not 100% certain. I didn't actually do any of it myself, but this was what I was told, and I was just like,
I did all of it.
Yeah, no. Well, this is the thing. There were people
smart. I don't think
me,
it worked, but
the people around me that were, and they weren't any more or less productive than I was anyway. And I was just sticking to caffeine and water, and
they were just more tense and anxious.
Yeah. They would be in. Some of the things that some of the guys that I'd be training with, like when we were doing, because when I did my undergrad in strength and conditioning science, we had to do a whole module on weightlifting, and we had a weightlifting competition at the end and stuff like that as part of an assessment. Some of the guys that I knew that were doing it were coming in the gym and they were trying to like double gym sessions, double weightlifting sessions, trying to lift really heavy all the time. And I'd only go in there like 2-3 times a week, manage my week, and I was lifting the same and making the same improvements, or if not slightly more. And they're going to me, how are you squatting so much less in volume, but your intensity's higher? And I'm like, well, it's focused training. But yeah, with regards to like the ECA stack, I'm not 100% sure on all of the science behind it.
I always use a pumping analogy because it makes sense for firefighters. If you think about water, pump, pressure, basically. So you've got viscosity. So viscosity being the thickness or viscousness of water. So if you take an aspirin, effectively thins your blood a little bit. So we're thinning the water out, so it's less viscous. And then we're taking the caffeine to just try and dial up the heart rate and just dial the revs up a little bit. And then people used to, what's the other stuff I used to have? Used to be in cough medicine. It was legal.
Oh yeah.
Fracking hell, what was it called? What's it called?
It's a derivative of the adrenaline type stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sudafed,
Clenbuterol. No. Yeah, no. What was it?
That's an asthma drug.
It is as well, but bodybuilders use it for stripping.
Yeah.
What's the other stuff? Began with E.
Or ephedrine.
Ephedrine.
That's it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So they used to use ephedrine as well.
Yeah.
So because that was what T3 was, wasn't it? It was ephedrine.
Yeah.
Ephedrine, caffeine, and a blood thinner of some form. Yeah. Anyway, wasn't good. I think that's what actually led to. So you can see on my legs, I've got like varicose veins.
Yeah.
That I had them operated on and stuff.
Yeah.
I think there was an aspect of that which didn't help.
No, and there's all sorts of like acute side effects as well with that, with regards to like shivering, fevers, hot flushes, dizziness, loss of sight, shit like that.
You talk about skipping a beat, mate. Like I would, when I was in bed, because I had so many goddamn issues as well. Like I remember when I had a prolapse disc in my back, and I was taking diazepam. I was actually there's one few times I was actually prescribed something and I took it rather than just finding a way to get it myself. So I was taking diazepam, but because I was still trying to train as well, and I was having ephedrine at times. But ephedrine would mess about with your heartbeat, mess about with your heart rate, and then diazepam was effectively muscle relaxant. And there was times when I was in bed,
your heart almost
would stop. It would stop, seriously. And then I'd feel the panic, I'd wake up, and there'd be like a massive thud where your heart would, and I was like
you're being kicked in the chest.
What the hell?
Yeah.
This was like, and I didn't tell my missus and stuff like that. It was
No, of
like,
course not. It should be fucking dragging.
well, yeah. And she knew, bless her, there's a whole thing going on there about like what she let me do and enabling and all that sort of stuff. And she was too nice, and she should have told me to stop. But I don't blame her; it's my decisions.
Yeah.
But you know, because there's enablers as well. And do you see this a lot? Because sporting in itself, elite athletes it's a very selfish thing. I say selfish in a respectful manner.
Yeah.
Someone's got to be the, not quote unquote star, but like, it needs to be a joint decision if you're in a relationship and one of you is going to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
You know, there needs to be an understanding. It's going to take a lot of that person's time. But it can be very unhealthy, because sometimes you can get into financial abuse as well.
Yeah.
Do you ever see that, where somebody's like, I need to eat this much, and the other person is supporting that person? Sometimes man to woman, sometimes woman to man, but usually woman to man. You know, they're working in a Tesco's, or, you know, and this person's not working, they're training all the time, and they're like, you need to support me, this is the goal of the family. And I'm like, oh God, that's dangerous.
Yeah, elite sports, elite level athletes are extremely selfish, and they have to be the best of the best, and there's no two ways about it. And it's an extremely demanding job of everyone around you, and it is a 24/7 job. And this is what people don't get. If you want to be the best, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot. And it's not just a sacrifice of, well, okay, so he's a professional footballer, he's going to go and do 90 minutes training a day. Actually, when you look at their schedules, they're in from 8, they don't leave till 5 some days. So it's a proper 9 to 5 job. And then they're away all weekend, they travel for 3 days, they don't see the family, don't see them on birthdays, don't see them on Christmas. The schedules don't change. It's routine, day in, day out.
Mo Farah. Wow.
Brutal schedule.
We all love him. I love him.
Yeah.
But I'll totally get it wrong, so someone will write in and tell me, but I think he's been away from his family like 7 years.
Probably.
I think he comes back for the birthdays or something. Yeah. But he trains, obviously, I think in Ethiopia, America as well, trying to do all the altitude training and conditioning and you know, acclimatization. And his family don't live there with him.
No.
You know?
No.
Colossal sacrifice.
Yeah, mate, unbelievable.
But you don't see the graveyard. And this is what I'm saying, like the graveyard of families and relationships, and we only see the success stories. I'm not trying to vilify it, you know, I just want to flesh out that discussion around just, I suppose, an appreciation for people that are hearing this and perhaps want to learn a little bit more about yourself or want support in the training. It's more than just you're going to have to give up cream cakes. I mean, there's a bigger sacrifice that's going to be happening with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, to take anything, if you want to take anything to an elite level, if you want to be the best at anything, then everyone around you, your support network has to be on board. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, your support network has to be on board. And if your support network, no matter what you're doing, are a little bit doubtful of it, then you're going to have to really convince them and work harder to get them.
They need to be on board. So I want to sort of change gears a little bit and ask maybe around the aspect of like value of association and the people that we put ourselves around. How important is that to you as a person? You run a successful business. You're a firefighter. You're a lecturer. You do a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
How much attention do you give to the people you place inside your sphere of influence?
So, with regards to working colleagues, or with regards to family?
Well, so everywhere you go, someone's in your sphere, aren't they? So
yeah. So it's very, very difficult because you've got to have a separate life. You've got to be able to compartmentalise what you do. So what I do in the fire brigade, there is integration. Like my watch, they know my wife, but my watch is my watch. My family is my family. You know what I mean? My lecturing is my lecturing. No one from the fire brigade really knows anyone that I lecture with.
Okay.
So you know, it's two separate things for me, and I compartmentalise it, and it allows me to prioritize.
Do you like to change hats?
Oh God, yeah.
Because some people, like there'd be some people who need to massage their ego, and if they were a lecturer, they're like every time you talk to them, they'd find a way to tell you about the fact they are a lecturer. Or whatever they do. Do you know what I mean?
If you talk to some of the guys on my watch, they'll say I do that. Yeah, like Tim, he would very quickly say, "Oh, is he talking about his research again?" But but outside of the little watch, like we're only a small watch of 8.
Yeah,
you know, not massive. And outside of the watch, I don't really talk about it too often because I don't find it. If someone asks me, "Oh, what are you doing?" You know, "Oh, I'm going to," and they go, "Oh, I didn't know," and you're like, "Oh," and you have a chat, but. I don't actively go and hunt people down and tell them. Like, what's the point of that?
I'm the same with this. Even ironically, though, the Firefighters podcast obviously exists within the emergency services, I don't talk to people day to day about it unless somebody's going to ask me about it, because I haven't got to sell it to them as such. And if they're interested, they'll find it, or they'll come and ask me about it. But you don't want to bash people over the head with it. Similar with training. I like to train at different gyms where people don't go. I mean, you must have it as well. They're like, oh, dude, can you do that? I used to get it on watch all the time. I'd be like, oh, Pete, can you run a session for everybody today?
Yeah.
Or, would you mind? And I'm like, I don't fucking want to.
Yeah.
I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah,
I'm here. I just want to chill. Just want to, I'm part of the team. I'll enjoy going to CrossFit gyms and just taking part in a workout. Yeah. So I haven't got to be asked anything. Not that I'm a god of anything. I'm still a student forever. Yeah. But still people will go like, oh, can you help me with that? And I'll help. Yeah. But you're like, I just want to be a nobody for a bit. Just be a nobody. And we're all nobody. I'm not saying I'm an anybody, but do you know what I'm trying to say? Is that 100%, pressure?
100%.
Answer it if you need to answer it.
I don't get involved with my watches training at all. I don't like training when I'm on duty. I will train before or after, and any downtime when the rest of the watch are in the gym. If they've got a rehab problem or something like that and they want to ask me specifically, I'll help them. Yeah. Otherwise, they know I'm separate from it, And I've helped my old watch manager, or sub-officer, who's now moved on to Islington, station officer. He got promoted and moved on. His son, when he was joining the army, he asked me, can you give my son some guidance, some advice and stuff like that? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I just did some bits like that because it helped him. But the rest of my watch, I don't get involved with. I do my own stuff. They do their own stuff with regards to fitness and training. I think it's nice because it separates it. And I don't like training when I'm on shift. Because I get really, really pissed off when I can't complete a session.
Oh, God, yeah.
So, for me, I'm just like, I'll be halfway through a set of squats and the bells go down and I'm just like, what the... And then instantly in my head, all I'm thinking is, you've ruined my gym session. So...
And when people go, just finish it later.
No, I can't.
That doesn't work that way.
I've lost it.
If I tried to, I'd probably injure myself. Because of how my body needs to. It's a little bit like trying to catch up on sleep. You don't really. It doesn't work like that. Once you've missed it, you've missed it.
Yeah, that's it.
It's gone till next week. Because that session had to end there now. Yeah, because I'll just hurt it if I go again.
Exactly. So I'd rather just separate it. But so kind of compartmentalize a few things and I don't.
Plus, I would imagine people perhaps don't appreciate. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but appreciate the level of knowledge you probably have in this particular area because you're at a different level in your fire service career than you are in this career. In this career, or the career that we're referring to now, you're a lecturer. You're helping people develop through their. They're paying a lot of money to go to university and learn from you, amongst others. So when people say like, "Oh, could you help me with this thing?" You'd be like, "Yeah." If you want to, it's X. What? I wouldn't pay you anything. That's because you don't. That's okay. That's totally fine. You genuinely would probably be more appropriate to probably go and work with this person. Yeah, but I want to work with you. Well, then it's going to probably cost this. Yeah, because that's just what it is.
Yeah, I was having a conversation again with Tim. Bless him. His wife has done an undergrad in nutrition and stuff like that, and we were talking, and he was just like, "How much do you charge to do PT?" And I said, in all honesty, Tim, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
And he was like, fair enough. And I said, no. I said, look, I wouldn't, if we was on duty and you wanted help, I'd help you. I said, but if you wanted me to come and be your S&C coach, personal trainer outside of this job, I said, for you to buy my hours is expensive. And he was like, right.
For me to buy my hours is expensive.
Exactly, yeah. And I said, if how much does your wife charge? And she's done her undergrad in, diet and nutrition. And he was like, oh yeah, good point. And I'm like, yeah, now... Your wife's done her undergrad, plus had 10 years of experience at an elite level. And he was like,
difference.
Yeah, fine. And now...
And also, most people probably, with the greatest respect, wouldn't, depending on what level they're at, wouldn't get the benefit from what you would need to be doing with them. Most people just... Joe Wicks is amazing. He's great.
You just need to move, don't they?
But they just need a Joe Wicks.
Yeah.
We're not Joe Wicks, and he's built an incredible business. But what he does fundamentally is very simplistic stuff. It's very effective and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But it's that people just want somebody to stand there and fucking jump around with them.
Yeah.
And just get them moving. Calisthenics, don't fuck up. Don't even try and do any crazy Olympic lifting. No. Your body's not ready for it.
No, exactly. I completely agree. And I work out of a small little gym that's owned by one of my friends, and I just rent the space, and I have a very few select clients that I see face to face, play rugby at Nat 1 level, in a rugby academy, elite jiu-jitsu guys, MMA fighters, things like that. And we do a lot of very, very basic stuff, but they do it really well. And then you see the other guys in there, other PTs in there with Joe Smith down the road, and they're doing crazy shit.
Some crazy shit.
And like you'll see the general population look over and go, well, why is he only doing that? That's really basic. And he's been working on that and every time we see him, he's doing something quite basic. And you're like, the way I try to think about exercise selection is when you're building a house, you're building your foundations. It's all the fundamentals: your squat, your hinge, your lunge, your patterns. When you're a kid going through the youth athlete development, you build your foundations. When you're a senior athlete who's got solid foundations, that's when you can put the mansion on. And putting the mansion on, you don't start by decorating with the lampshades.
Yeah.
And every bit of shiny, not S&C, every bit of shiny exercise in between is your lampshades, your scatter cushions, all that stuff. And a lot of people will go in and they'll go, oh, I'm an interior designer. And they'll start designing interiors through how they select the sofa or, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what PTs, and I'm not trying to shit on any PTs, there's some great PTs out there, but that's kind of what they do with the general population. And that is kind of what they need, because that's how they get their vision, and then that's how they get the commitment, the buy-in, and they can do it that way. Elite level athletes, you ain't got to convince them to buy in. You need to turn around to them and say, listen, when you want to be an elite level athlete, we need to work on this. Or if you are an elite level athlete, we need to stay working on this so that you can master your sport and master your skill. And interesting, going back over one of your previous podcasts, you had a conversation about strengths and weaknesses. It was the functional firefighter fitness guys, right?
Yeah.
And it's something I've always lived by with elite level athletes is you want to measure what their weaknesses are so they don't get any worse at them, but you measure their strengths so that they can become super strengths.
Yes.
There's a reason you are elite.
Yeah.
And it's that strength. And that strength is what's going to take you to the next level. So I know for a fact, if I've got a footballer, for instance, and he or she is a attacking winger, like wing forward, right, and they're absolutely rapid. That's their strength. Like, they've got an incredible 20-metre sprint.
Yeah.
But they're really crap at getting back. One of their weaknesses from a coaching perspective is their understanding of the game and getting back. So you give them a little bit more so that they can understand that. But then physiologically, you look at it and you go, well, does she even have the capacity to recover to get back to then do that sprint again?
Yeah.
And then you look at it and you go, well, how do we train that? Or how do we then go, actually, coach, we need to sit someone behind her who's got that capacity so that she can focus on doing what she does best or he does best, because they're a maverick going forward.
Yeah.
And then you've got the workhorse behind them.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh, yeah, I never thought of that. And you go, he or she ain't going to run back.
Right.
Because they haven't, it's not that they don't understand, because you ask them the questions and they understand. They go, I know, but I just can't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, right, okay, cool. Why can't you do it? Well, if I come back, I can't go forward again. And I go forward quick.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, well, that's your super strength. You're a maverick in that direction. We need to cultivate that, grow that, and turn that into what your super strengths are. And it goes with, like, if you're working in rugby, back row is back row, right? But it isn't, because everyone plays a 6 and a 7 completely different. So someone like James Haskell is an aerobic monster, and he will be at every single breakdown.
The engine's there. No?
Yeah, and he will wrestle everyone and be at every breakdown, and he will keep going and keep going and keep going. And then you put someone like Nathan Hughes or someone slightly different, and he won't be at every breakdown. But when he hits a line, my God, does he hit a line? And he will break through and he will go, and you're like, well, there's...
I was just thinking Jason Robinson a little bit like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The
sheer explosive power of that man.
Yeah.
He was a freak.
It was a really compact little beast.
Wow, yeah.
But you wouldn't expect... You would actually expect him to track back and cover.
Yeah,
but
very bad example. But we used to see him go.
Yeah.
That was like... That was for me, was when it really started changing my perception of some athletes in rugby, because I thought it was just people that could eat shins and get kicked in the face 10 times and keep coming forward. But he was like God.
Yeah. So as rugby's developed over the years, and I've got friends that work still in professional rugby and stuff, that the profile of the athlete is changing quite significantly. They've got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where they can't get any bigger. And they're having to then re-evaluate. And if you just look at Italy in the last Six Nations with their number 15, how small and how fast and how skillful he is, they're having to re-evaluate the calibre of athlete they bring through. Yeah. Because ultimately what they're doing is they're putting two rhinos against each other. One of them's going to get hurt. They need to go and find another rhino. So actually, forget about that. Let's go run someone around him and stop that person getting hurt. You know, because the burden, the cost, the whole, then everything in and around that situation, you've got players that are just injured.
Yeah, and there's an irony between somebody being that big and strong. It's actually a very fragile model. Yeah. To try and build a team around.
Yeah, 100%. You talk. you look at some of Jordan Peterson's stuff in and around, or Nazim Taleb, his stuff in and around anti-fragility, and you go, well, actually, what you've developed is a very, very robust individual, but a very fragile team. Because if that robust individual goes down, the team's in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, well, actually, then what? How do we fix that? It's like, well, we need first and foremost to be PhDs in our sport.
Yeah.
So and this is something that I think some amateur sports people can take a massive thing from as well. I'm not saying strength and conditioning isn't beneficial, but is it worth you spending your time on? That's always the big question. Like, if you've got 4 hours a week and you want to get good at playing football, do you spend 50% of your time playing football and 50% of your time doing S&C?
Because nobody used to do S&C at all.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and sport lives on without it.
When did it first, because you'll know far better than me, I felt like it started coming in when bodybuilders started training boxers. But I may be completely right. I know you've read so much more than I have. When did we first start doing any real S&C?
In the Western society, probably like kind of in the 80s, 90s. Gym culture was massive, so it wasn't actually, as a industry, it wasn't really there. Early 2000s, it became more of an industry in sport. It was always sold as kind of sports science. Yeah. But when you look at more Eastern Bloc, like they were doing strength and conditioning stuff in the 60s. Yeah. So you go back all the way back to like Verkhoshansky, Sif, all those guys. Yeah. When you read into what they do, and it's no different to what we do now. Yeah. It's the same wheel spinning.
They used to start with, and I'll get the name wrong altogether, but they effectively had like a big conditioning calisthenic style mesocycle before they ever even touched a weight, though, didn't they? And now we see so many people, your PT analogies and everything like that, just jumping straight in with some weird machine or a complex barbell movement. Yeah. But if you said to anybody, oh, you know what, just get up every morning, try and do 20 burpees, 20 press-ups, and progressively get better every day, and then come back in 2 months. You know, try and just do jump squats and lunges.
Yeah, massive.
People are like, no, that's not. I'm seeing it right. There's this guy on Instagram.
Yeah, it's not sexy.
And you're like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but then again, like you've alluded to in previous podcasts, right? They're at stage 100. You're at stage 1.
Yeah.
Like, can you do a push-up? No. Well, then there you go. Like, do a push-up. You know,
and I know, but
can you walk up the stairs without losing your breath? No. Well, then start walking up the fucking stairs.
How do we resell that to people though? Because there's so much noise, and should we even bother? If people aren't going to listen, you can't try and sell somebody on something and they want to hear. You can lead a horse to water and all that sort of stuff.
It's difficult. I think sometimes you don't necessarily need to sell it hard sell. It needs to be a case of they need to see it. You know what I mean? So me banging in your ear about how amazing this basic stuff is isn't going to benefit you as much as you actually just going, look, all right, okay, cool. You may not, like, let me just give you, I'm going to put you on a program for a month. I don't want you to pay me anything. I just want you to try it. Trust me. And then when you use the analogies like burnt toast, they go, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. And you're like, no, trust me, we'll take it easy. I'll build you in. I've got a new lad that I've started working with. He's a jiu-jitsu lad. He's like, yeah, I'm strong. I can do this. I can do that. I can back squat 150 kilos, blah, 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 and all this. And I was like, lovely, great. I don't really care. And he went, but you're my S&C coach. And I was like, yeah, in all honesty, you're not going to back squat under me. And he was like, oh, why? And I said, because we're going to focus on RDLs, front squats. And he went, why front squats? I said, because they're fucking humbling.
Yeah.
They're
and
difficult.
Also, you look at most, like you said, Eastern Bloc, most of them they would only rear squat in a competition.
Yeah.
Most of them just front squat, because it's so the likelihood of injury in a rear squat and the load you need to use to get the same output was so much more. Yeah. Whereas front squat, even from a course perspective and stuff like that, everything has to engage more.
Yeah,
and there's a big window for getting stuff wrong in a rear squat.
Increased like active range of movement through the lower limbs as well. So you have to have decent ankle range. You have to have decent hip range, because if you don't, your back goes. So there's a lot of little finite points.
Ankle range, like 8 years ago, was a big game changer. I forget who showed me now, but that for me was one of those where I didn't really think about it until I was probably watching a client do it. And some people's range of mobility in their ankles, as silly as that sounds, but it starts from the ground up.
Yeah.
And very few people, like if I've had somebody, put your foot 5 steps up on the stairs and try and drive the knee over the toe. Surprising how many people can do it.
No, I can't.
Can you not?
No. So
I know you've had issues with your ankle, haven't you?
Yeah, so my ankles are pretty bad. But that's years and years of being on the balls of my feet, doing martial arts, wrestling, and things like that, and not listening to the advice of keep mobile. and like you say, like we've all got pasts and histories and stuff, and I think sometimes it's like I will turn around to a lot of my clients and say, do as I tell you, because I didn't, and it's not good. Like don't do as I do as I say, because I've learnt better from it. But that's kind of what you want from a coach, like a mentor, anything like that, is a case of, look, this is where I've got to. I can teach you all my mistakes so you don't have to make them, and then you can go and progress to the next level. Like a lot of my interns, when I was at Chelsea, a lot of the guys that worked under me, I basically laid out quite quickly, like, you're going to have a lot of ownership over your program. I'll help you guide you through it, whatever you need. But these are the mistakes I learned very, very quickly. Don't make these mistakes. Progress and advance from here. And then and they've gone on and they're in programs like West Ham, Liverpool. Harry's still at Chelsea. You've got Guy Jed, who was with England Sevens for a bit, and you look at it and you're like mentoring these guys. They're all incredible coaches. Like Natasha went off to Google and stuff with their S&C private S&C program and stuff like that. And I think as a coach, like, you're always a coach. Coaching is in everything you do.
Behavior.
Yeah, so even as a firefighter, you're coaching someone to come with you if you're trying to help them. We had a incident the other day. A young boy got stuck on the roof, severely autistic, and we went up on a 135, and I went up there and I just started talking to him, and I was coaching him towards me. You know, oh, how are you? What are you doing? How are you feel? Like, just asking lots of questions, coaching him towards the ladder.
Soft skills.
Yeah, coaching him towards the ladder, to get him on the ladder, to get him come down. He didn't want to come down. He was scared of his dad, and I said to him, "Don't worry about that. We're going to look at the fire engine." It's just simple stuff, and people don't realise you're coaching when you're coaching. Yeah. You know what I mean? And coaching's all about, like you say, soft skills and relationships. So I still speak to a lot of athletes that I used to work with in pro sport, whether it's the female footballers or male footballers or some of the rugby players. I put on a rugby camp last summer for a group of young boys and girls that I
saw that. I love the BJJ stuff you brought into it.
Yeah,
movement patterns and
that was really wrestling cool. Based stuff. But it's the relationship I built with some of the younger rugby players that are now elite. I reached out to a few of them and I said to them, "Look, I know I'm being cheeky, but would you come to this on this day and I'll pay you?" And had Benno Abano, England prop, turned around and went, "Yes, I'll be there." Jack Willis, who's at Wasps, England back row, "Yeah, mate, I'll be there." Dan Barnes, who's with Jersey Reds, "Yeah, mate, I'll be there." And you're like, wow, like, that's coaching. Yeah. It's not. It's amazing to say that. Look, when I was with Chelsea, we won the FA Cup twice, won the league twice. We got to use Champions League final twice. We won Performance and Medical Team of the Year. When I was involved in that department, that's great. But then at the same time, I can phone up Katie Chapman, who I worked with, and I just have a chat. And you're like. She answers the phone, "Hello, mate, how are you? How are the kids? How are things?" And you're like, "Oh, when are we going to meet up for a coffee?" And you're like, that's what coaching is. Yeah. And that is totally different because you can bring that into everything. Elite sport is massively selfish.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I had to walk away from elite sport, because I enjoy coaching.
I was going to say, how do you fight that constant pull of wanting to remain part of the emergency service? Why do you stay part of the emergency services? You know, what is it about it that
security
keeps you
freedom?
Okay. Yeah, financial security is an aspect of that, I suppose.
Yeah,
honest
so
days.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't say that. It's honest.
Yeah, but it's not a massively well paid job, but it's a consistently paid job, and there are opportunities for you to earn more, and do more. And there are a lot of people like who have done significantly more time than me, and they signed up for a very, very different job. And when I joined, we sat down in this massive room, and there was some station commander or whatever standing up in front. We're going to ask everyone, you know, why you want to join in the job. Everyone in the room, boom, oh, I want to help people, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I was like, the first thing I said was, I want to spend more time with my son. And he went, wow, that's honest. And I went, and I've got no issues with helping people on the way. You know what I mean? I enjoy helping people. I always have, always will. That's why I went into coaching, because I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people be elite. But I didn't need to justify myself in that certain circumstance, because that's just in my nature. I like helping people. But yeah, for me, it was, I want to spend more time with my son. And he went, well, what do you do now? So I work in professional sport, work at Chelsea. He was like, wow, that's a good job. Why are you giving it up? Well, it doesn't pay me significantly more.
And also, I don't plan on giving it up completely.
Yeah, it doesn't pay me significantly more. Yeah. And I'm working 6-7 days a week, 11 and a half months of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I've got a very, very finite time when I'm allowed to take my leave, and I'm away from my whole family for a lot of the weekends, trips to Europe. So we had my last year at Chelsea, we had Champions League, we had all of the cup finals, everything. We was doing really, really well, really successful. And I think I went 2.5 months without having a weekend at home.
Wow.
And most of the weeks we was travelling away in the week as well. And you go, okay, cool, that's not too bad if you're doing it occasionally, but a 2.5 month solid block of my son's life when my son was only 8 months old, I was like, nah, you're all right. You know, that's time I can't get back.
100%.
And I didn't realise how much of that I'd missed until we had our second one and I spent all the time with her. And I'm like, oh my, like, I'm surprised my son even bloody knew who I was, you know what I mean? Because I was just at work so much. And
I just feel constantly guilty even now, though. We're not going to have another child. We don't want to have another child. But I spend time with my nephews and nieces and stuff. Like, I had a barbecue the other day, and my daughter's 10 now. And I look at it and I go, you know, my sister says stuff. She's like, oh, you know. And secretly, I'm like, even sometimes I say, I'm like, no, I don't really know, because that's not fucking, you know, I'm not like asking for sympathy, but I'm like, I was a bit shit, to be honest. Till Lily was about 2.
yeah,
Wasn't really there much.
yeah,
I was off doing everything I wanted to do, and then coming back, and instead of being at home for tea, I was going to the gym, and then after that I was off running different businesses and all that sort of stuff under the guise of and it was, you know, I mean, it was providing a living for the family, and it was giving us opportunities for things, but also very selfish, you know. And so it's a tough balance. It's like a constant self-torture, you know. Some days you could justify it to yourself, and then sometimes you're like, I mean, what did my daughter say to you when you came in the house today?
So about her birthday party, she was excited to go to. Yeah.
When is it?
Well, her birthday,
Today?
Yeah, party's today. Yeah, her birthday's in a couple of days. Yeah.
Yeah, and we are going to Jump Giants after
Nice.
this, but it's and you're like,
Yeah. No, I do get that. Like, the thing is, it's a priority. What becomes a priority? And I always used to have to-do lists and things like that, and then I stopped because I was like, you know what, my to-do lists are constantly expanding with things that I'm never going to get around to doing, and they don't really mean anything to me.
no.
So I threw a to-do list away, and everyone goes, oh, you should always have a to-do list, because then, you know, you could been productive, blah blah blah, and all this. And I have a priority list, and my priority's always got my family at the top. So it doesn't matter what I'm doing in the day. Am I prioritising what my family needs?
Okay.
And then the next things under that change. Everything changes. Like, oh, okay, today's priority is LFB because I need to be on duty, so I haven't got a choice. You know what I mean? Or,
but also, what's an appropriate amount? Because there's a kind of a question I want to ask about coaching, about being present, and about intentionality, and about quantity versus quality. What is a good amount of time? And neither of us have written a parenting book. No. But no, I don't think there ever will be a good parenting book out there. But how much time is enough time with the kids in a day?
It depends on the day.
True.
Like,
I'm going to force you into an answer there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say as a bare minimum, I'd want to be probably with my kids for 2 to 3 hours a day. As a bare minimum.
A minimum.
Yeah.
I'll go 2 hours.
Yeah.
I know I'm not as interesting as I think I am. So what I mean by that is brevity.
Yeah.
In learning brevity in how I speak and how I communicate, and especially when I'm with my daughter and my kids, is like, I feel like Lily wants a good, interesting hour or 2 with me. Let's play a game. Exactly. Let's go for a walk. Let's do a thing.
Yeah.
But then there's the flip side where people say, oh no, I spend every night with my kids. Do you? Or do you sit on the sofa and watch TV and they're fucking somewhere in the house?
Yeah, exactly. But
that's where I'm like, hang on a minute.
This is what I mean by priorities.
Yeah,
my priority isn't a case of just how many hours can we accumulate. It's like yesterday, before I went on my night shift, my son was at nursery. So while my son was at nursery, I spent a few hours playing with my daughter, and I took her for a walk. She went over to the park. We had a great bit of time. Then I come back and left her with my wife, and I picked my son up, and I took my son straight to the cinema and watched the new Lightyear film.
Nice.
And he loved it. And he was then like, oh, Dad, that was amazing.
That was memory. Great memory there.
Yeah, like 2 hours. But that was like 2 hours of good quality time with each of them.
Yeah.
And then I got home and we had some food, and I was like, right, guys, I'm off to work now, so I'll see you. And they're like, okay, bye. And again, because it's
they've
like
had enough for you. They don't want their interest anymore. They've had enough
and
of you.
You know when they've had enough of you as well. So that's like when people selfishly say, oh, I want to spend all my time with my kids. It's like, well, does your kid really want to spend all this time with you?
But equally your friends, and equally like your watch or your family or whatever, being present
Yeah.
When people just say, "Oh, I need a bit of time with your boss, or I need a bit of time with your sweetheart, or whatever,"
Yeah.
it's probably less than you think it is.
Yes. Yeah.
But what they want is your attention.
Yeah.
When's the last time you had a conversation with somebody
Yeah.
where you felt like, I've got 90% of this person's attention, or 95%.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about tomorrow. They're not wondering what's in the corner of the room. They're not on their phone. They're not whatever. They are here.
Yeah.
If you can give somebody that,
that's balancing
pure.
Balancing the jobs that I do with the whole of the family time. So like yesterday was a great example of spending the time with my kids, but then my wife missed out. So, and then sometimes I'll come back home and they've had a nightmare trying to get down to sleep. So I walk in the door, she hands them straight to me. She goes, "Get them to bed." And I'm like, "Yeah, cool." And then I turn around to her and say, "Look, I'm really sorry. I've got marking to do. I've got a report to write, or I've got this." And she just looks at me like, you don't fucking stop.
Yeah.
But then it gives her a little bit of time for herself. But then, there's always sacrifice. There's never a perfect recipe.
No.
You can't keep everyone happy.
No.
But then at the same time, we've done it where we've taken the kids to the mother-in-law's and we've gone out on a date night, and it's like that's what my wife needed from me, because she knew that she had my full attention, and vice versa. I needed to speak to her, and you don't realise how much you need to lean on these people until you need to lean on them. And sometimes, like we said about the athletes and the support network and stuff like that, and being selfish, and yes, your goals and the way you're going about it is selfish, and your support network needs to be behind you. They need to be, otherwise you're not going to make it. And it's not just financial, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's all the other aspects. Like when I first went into S&C, and I had my own PT business before that, when I first went into S&C, I turned around to my wife and I said to her, "I'm going to university." And she was like, "All right." We were dating.
How old are you then?
I was 21.
21.
So we'd just got engaged, and I said to her, "I'm going to university." And she went, "Okay." And I said to her, "I'm going to St Mary's University in Twickenham because they've got the best strength and conditioning degree in Europe." And she went, "All right." And I went,
"Have they?"
Yeah, well, they did have at the time. It was one of the, I don't know now. It was.
I didn't go to university, but
No.
I was around Loughborough University when I was training.
So Loughborough's always been good
from a
for
lot of
sports.
people.
Yeah, sports science departments and stuff
I
like
didn't
that.
get a degree there, but I was around a lot of really interesting people that were
Mate,
pretty
it's a great
smart.
place, Loughborough. So one of my old lecturers now is I think program lead up there.
Yeah.
Richard Blagrove, and he's incredible. He was one of the senior lecturers and program director of the undergrad when I was at St Mary's. But yeah, it was one of.
So you made that decision, yeah?
Yeah. So I turned around and said, like, "We're going. Like, I'm going," and she was like, "Cool." And then she looked into it, and she was like, "All right, I'll study a degree as well."
Wow.
And then we both just went and studied degrees, and we both got first, and she went and did a fantastic job working up the city for a few years and absolutely loved it. And then she was like, "I want to have kids." I went, "Okay, cool, we'll do it." And it was that.
When did you become a firefighter? What age did you... Because you were 21 when you went to
29,
uni.
30, 29.
29?
Yeah.
Weird age.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But
why? Again, I know you said like spend more time with your son.
Yeah, because
Financial
of my son.
aspect to it.
So it wasn't. Yeah.
Had you ever thought about it before then?
Yeah, it'd always been something. I'd applied to Essex years ago, like a long time ago when I was like 18, and nothing ever come of it. And I just thought, you know what, do something else, see what happens. My granddad was a firefighter. He was in London for 30 years. My uncles and my dad applied and they never got in. And literally, my mate Nigel is brilliant. He's been in 7 years now, I think. He's been promoted in the last round to lead NAN, so he's doing well. He's really enjoying it. He messaged me and he went, "When do you want to meet up, mate?" Like, and this was when I was at Chelsea, and I went, "Oh, text me what dates you've got free, and I'll let you know." And he just sent me this massive list of dates, and it was ridiculous. And I was like, "Are you at work ever?" He went, "Yeah, I'm working. Like, I haven't got any leave coming up, but these are all my rota days off." And I was like, "Of all those dates, mate, I've got one."
Yeah, I know.
And he went, "Okay, cool." And then when I was chatting to him,
lifestyle,
he just went,
brother.
Yeah, he went, "Mate, you should apply." He said, "The application's going again soon." He said, "Just apply, see what happens. You don't have to take it." And yeah, I applied, and off the whim, and I got in straight away. And where you're just like, some people, a friend of mine, Michael, he applied for 6 years. And every time got to a different stage and got put back and put back and put back. For whatever reason, I don't really know. Because he's a really intelligent guy, really fit guy, ex-military and all that, really nice dude. And
Mate, it's a lottery.
Yeah.
To get in first, when the promotions and all that sort of stuff is a bit of a black magic sometimes as well, and it's a bit of a strange variety of skill sets and who you know and what you know, but also sometimes you just don't get it as well. But to get in off the bat now, there's so much noise, from EDI, from different fitness levels, from different personal qualities and attributes. There's it's a lottery now.
With
the greatest respect. That's not to take away from anybody that's successful. One
of the things I did that a lot of people didn't do was I was really, really badgering the recruitment. Yeah. So I found the poor recruitment lady's email, and once I'd got it, I was emailing her consistently to find out what was going on. Yeah. And it was like, all right, I've just had my interview. 24 hours later, I emailed her, how did I do? What's the next stage? And then didn't get a reply. 48 hours after that, how did I do? What's the next? And she got to the point she was emailing me. She was like, please stop emailing me. I was like, just tell me what I need to know. She went, your interview's here or your next stage is here. And I was like, lovely, thank you. And I think...
I always say to my daughter, shy kids don't get sweets.
No,
be
exactly.
polite.
Yeah.
But be intentional.
That's how I got all my jobs. Yeah. Like when I was at Wasps, a friend of mine was there as well. And I said to him, look, have you got any opportunity for me to come in and just shadow? I just want to see what you guys do. He went, yeah, sweet, come in. And then introduced me to someone. And I shook his hand. I went, here's my number, blah, blah, blah. Let's have a chat. And he went to me, oh, come down. We did a session. He went, right, are you available next week? I said, yes. Bang, straight in, done. And then when I applied for a different position at Chelsea within their boys' academy. And I was the runner-up candidate. They emailed me and said, unfortunately, you didn't get it because you don't have enough football experience. I said, amazing, thank you very much. Thanks for the feedback. Have you got any opportunities for me to get the football experience? And Will messaged me back and he went, let me get back to you. And then they offered me a job, a different job. But I ended up running a whole department. And you're like, yeah, man. So I could have been a minion in the academy and instead I ended up running my whole department. Yeah. And you're like, it's a way
lucky
about
people that actually get there through just consistent push. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And just keep showing up, just keep showing up. And then when they do have something that needs doing, they turn around and go, you can do that, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's not fair. You mean that's not fair? Yeah. You didn't show up. Yeah. You weren't there every time. Yeah. You weren't sending emails. You weren't ringing people. Yeah. And who wanted it more?
My mate Tom, who's the head of, I'm dropping loads of names now, and head of Wolves Football Club, the sports science department. He was at Wasps at the time, and he's done some great things. He's such a cool guy. And he said to me, he said, if I open the door for you and you put your foot in the way, he said, fucking prove yourself when you go through it.
Fuck it up.
Yeah. He said, prove yourself. And he said, ultimately, if you can prove yourself, that door will never close. And so far, I've taken.
So many people wait for the opportunity to get themselves ready. There, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll start working on it." And you're like, "Mate, I needed it now." Yeah, you needed to be ready. Always be ready.
You should have been ready yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if anything's coming up though. Something's always coming up. Be ready. Yeah, all the time. Stand and deliver. You should be ready. As soon as I turn to you and press play, be ready.
Yeah. Be on double speed.
Just this is your moment now. It's just gone.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't tell me, did you? You should have told me 3 weeks ago. I'd have been ready. Be ready now.
Yeah, it is tough. And in the industries, both industries, strength and conditioning and fire service, are extremely, extremely competitive. So to be able to have done what I've done and get from one where I coached in front of 58,000 people at Wembley to going and actually riding on the back of a fire engine, and people go, oh, in the fire brigade, they go to me, oh, why are you doing this? I'm like, mate, do you understand how many people want to do this job? Yeah. You have no idea. And they're like, oh yeah, I suppose. And I'm like, mate, it's fucking amazing. You got kids out there that idolise you. Yeah. And then it's the same in that other job. People, oh man, I'd give anything to work for X Club. And you're like, really?
Yeah.
So, but
you think you would? Yeah. That's a romantic thing to say, though. That's why
sport is, isn't it?
Yeah. What the boring stuff is we were talking about the mobility, the flexibility, the nutrition, the studying that you've done, the ringing people late at night, the sitting there on your laptop. It sounds romantic to say, "Oh no, you don't get it. I'm so disciplined and dedicated," and you're like, "Well, are you sitting there for 6 hours?" Listening and editing boring audio of yourself and others. I'm not saying the podcast is successful, but it's an example of something that people say they would like the idea of. Yeah. Or like the idea of well, would you though? Because some of the strength and conditioning books that you're reading, they're 30 years old. Yeah. And you're looking for half a paragraph in a 400-page book. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you really want it?
Super training.
Because it is. Yeah. It's boring shit, most of it.
It's one of those books where you get your head into it and you go, oh my God, this is an absolute brain buzz. And you'll read a
fog.
paragraph. Yeah, you'll read a paragraph, and then you'll go, "What did I just read?" And you'll read it again and again. And anyone that tells me,
I'm not sure that's a sentence.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
anyone that tells me they've read it front to back is lying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I read Super Training. Bollocks.
Yeah.
You know,
I haven't. I've got
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I haven't read it.
But I don't blame you because it's a reference book, and I guarantee anything you.
The only reason I've read some of Ross Edgley's stuff, I don't even think he's read half of that stuff. No. It's popcorn. It sounds harsh to him. He's a very impressive individual, but it's popcorn for people that think they want to do what you've done. It's the McDonald's of that. And even that is too much for some people, and some of that stuff's only like 100, 200 pages long.
Oh no, yeah, it's some of the stuff. There are some
great
books out there
of other stuff.
Yeah, there are some great books out there. One of the ones I've got a little bit of a gripe with at the moment is Franz Bosch's book on strength and coordination stuff. And to be fair,
not that you'd be surprised that I've not read it, but go on.
To be fair, he's really good, and his stuff is really good, but when you go through it and you look at it and you actually go, well, who does this apply to? It applies to like the 0.1% of all athletes.
That's why I'm always a bit pessimistic when I hear anything say there's something new.
No, there isn't.
Probably not. I mean, there's a few really deep niches where there's some new stuff.
Yeah.
In a lot of it's not. You're just recycling something and rewording it. Probably.
There's been some really interesting research from Brian Mann on daily autoregulatory progressive resistance exercise, right? Which is a mouthful. But all it means is a slow adaptation of your training, progressive overload, according to what you can achieve on a day.
Okay.
Daily adaptations, right? So you look at it and you go, wow, that's cool. And then they've gone, we can do it with velocity-based training, we can do it with this, we can do it with that, we can use all these technologies. And then you go, where did this come from? And then you start looking into the history of it, and there's a whole massive paragraph on it on super training. And you're like, that book was written in the 80s. And then you look at his references, and they're referencing from rehabilitation after World War II from the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And you're going, holy crap, there's papers being published in the last 10 years that are pushing this new thing that started in the 50s in rehab. And you're like, wow, we genuinely are not. We're always spinning the wheel. We are not creating anything new.
That's why it baffles me how things like men's health and stuff. So it doesn't baffle me because I'm like, they're kind of entry-level drugs for bigger stuff, but nobody's even going to do the bigger stuff. So I don't. Do you think? I'm not trying to belittle anybody, you know. I won't go too far into this, but I'm like, what do people that read that think they're going to achieve? Are they reading it to pacify themselves? And it's good. You know, I'm not diminishing it. I mean, I'd love for them to be a partner of the podcast. You know, I'm not going to throw them aside, but. Why do people do that? What's the benefit of it?
Instant gratification.
Okay. Is that what
I reckon.
Well, we're in a world of it now, aren't we? With Amazon and Netflix and Instagram. Yeah. It's
no one wants to wait.
Gives me an illusion that I've got it now.
Yeah. No one wants to wait.
For anything.
No. And these magazines, fitness magazines, whatever magazine you're looking at, they have these little templates.
6 minute abs.
Do this. Yeah. 6 minute abs. Yeah, do this for 4 weeks and you'll look like me. This is your nutrition plan and you'll look like me. And it's like what it doesn't tell you is the cycles that he's on.
Obviously.
100%. And how long he's been training and you know and years and years of dedication to bodybuilding. And it goes, it's a 12-week transformation program. And I'm not going to lie, I actually have a 12-week transformation program.
Yeah.
But it's not a body transformation
as well.
It is boring.
It works.
Yeah.
But it's probably boring as hell.
I've got quite a few guys that are on it, but it's not about what I said to him was it's not about transforming the way you physically look. It's about transforming your understanding of what you can achieve and building habits.
Yeah.
And they're like, right. And it was originally put together during lockdown when no one had any kit. So it's all bodyweight stuff and isometric work and really basic. And it incorporates like escalating density stuff. So you're combining as much work as you can in a small period of time, a bit like circuit training, that kind of stuff. And then, it's got combinations of all bits and pieces, getting them out to actually go and do some structured running instead of just go for a 20-minute run. It's like, actually, these are the tempos you need to be hitting.
That's where I love things like, as much as people stab at it sometimes, things like Couch to 5K. Works.
Yeah.
Bloody works. Because running marathons hard.
Oh, it's brutal. It's developing habits, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's progressive overload. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
It works.
There'll be some people where Couch to 5K is really, really easy because they could probably run 5K anyway. And there's some people where it's perfect.
Yeah.
And some people will just be like, no, that was horrendous. And it's like, well, it was only horrendous because you thought it was going to be horrendous. You know, it's always worse in mind than it is in body.
100%.
But yeah, one of my clients on my program, he's done it a few times, but he'll go and do the 12 weeks and then he'll step away from it for a while and then he'll come back and do the 12. And I've never charged him for it. I gave it away free.
Stop doing that.
No, I gave it away free. And then I said to him, do you want to do it again? And he was like, because he messaged me, he was like, I'm going through a bit of a hard time with this, and this. And I just said to him, there's a program, give yourself some focus, give yourself some direction in something. Because ultimately, physical fitness and mental health are so interlinked. And a lot of the fire service, they train so hard because they're competitive or they train to forget about other shit because it gives them a space. And I don't.
It's a crutch for me.
Yeah, I don't.
Like when you say like training 3 or 4 times a week, like you know, I used to train with powerlifters and stuff all over. They would do that.
Yeah.
Far stronger than me, but they were far more mentally stable than me. Yeah. I almost feel like I need to do something every day that sucks, whether it's the ice bath, whether it's whatever it might be. Otherwise, I just feel guilty. Like I won't let myself go to bed, and I'll end up working too late just to justify my laziness. I
used to have, with regards to my own physical training, that mentality as well. And at the moment, I'm not in my peak physical condition, obviously, but I used to be like 2 to 3 times a day, regimented. You know, you're going for a run in the morning, you're doing a body weight session, and then you're going to do jiu-jitsu, weights, wrestling, whatever. That was before I worked. And then I started adding in work, and it was a case of, well, something's got to give. And then added in university, added in stuff, and it makes you realise that actually what you need to do is the bare minimum to get the most adaptations you possibly can. Yeah. And kind of be satisfied with the small achievements on a daily basis. Instead of just
to yourself,
burying yourself in a hole, because you are always your worst critic, your own worst critic. Like some of the stuff you do, people will be like, that's amazing, I wish I could do that. And then you're like, it ain't good enough, I can do better. And they're like, what are you talking about? You've just absolutely nailed that. Whatever it is, you've just nailed that. You made that look so easy. Whether it's exercise, whether it's podcast, whether it's writing a blog. And
the way you say it though, because you're right, but everything is by comparison. So if you say you've nailed that, that is coming from some position of perspective. Yeah. Like we say that wall is red. That's from our perspective of the fact that colour is grey. Or do you know what I mean? Yeah, this room is warm because we know what it's like to feel cold. Yeah. So we're doing that, but it's like we're doing that on steroids in life, because every comparison now is to something that historically we wouldn't have had access to. The world of social media allows you and I to compare ourselves with significant, not everybody in the world's got social media, but a large percentage have. Yeah. So I can now compare myself to that Olympic gods highlights from the Estonia or from America or from wherever, you know, the person in London that does it for, I don't know, wherever. Yeah. And I'm comparing my backstage to their highlight reel. Yeah. Yeah. And feeling like shit.
Yeah. Because you're not seeing their backstage.
Exactly.
And it's the old iceberg analogy, isn't it?
That's it.
You're not seeing...
But that's where I think a lot of that comes from. And that's where I myself, you know, we look at the Amazon and we look at all the stuff that's going really well. I look at whatever, Joe Rogan, and I'm like, oh, God, it feels a bit shit. Oh, my God, you know. And it's that in your mind all the time,
But like you say, you never see the failures. Like, who
well, you can skip back to his first ever episode, you know.
Sorry?
Like Joe Rogan, just as an example, sorry. You could skip back 10 years. I've done it. Yeah. If anyone wants to go on Spotify, press sort. Yeah, it's like 1,000 something. You can go back to episode 1. It's a shower of shit. The audio is horrific. There's big gaps. Yeah. And I love that he's left it up there. Yeah. No one really knows, but you can. It's freely accessible. Scroll all the way back to it. It's broken audio. He keeps stopping. He's moving away from the mic. And you're just like... Yeah. I love it. I love he's left that there.
Have you heard of Pat Flynn?
Pat Flynn.
So he's an American dude who does like Smart Passive Income podcast and a few other things, right? He's very similar. He's got hundreds of episodes and he's got all of them since day one. Yeah. And he's failed at a lot of businesses and he's open at talking about it, but he leaves all his failures out there for people to see as well. And one of the things I really, really like is the fact that he's pushing this idea that actually what you don't need to be scared of failure to go and achieve greatness. You need to start and keep building. If you don't start, you achieve nothing. You know what I mean? You're always at 0. Whereas if I take 5 steps forward and get knocked back 4, well, I've started at 1. So if I then take 5, I'm at 6, and get knocked back 4, I'm on 2. You know, and that's his whole thing. It's just like you never ever start from afresh. Yeah. So you know, we've gone off a little bit off piece, but
no, mate, 100%, 100%.
It's that kind of understanding of that's the iceberg. That's what I want to achieve. That's the tip of the iceberg. He's got that Olympic goal. How can I get there? And when I get knocked back, what does the next step look like? How do I then go and achieve that? And It is very difficult. It is, because I've seen, and I've worked with elite athletes that have been successful, and I've seen failures, and I've seen departments that have not evolved, and they've done the same thing after a success and then seen failure, and then they're blaming themselves, and they're like, what did we do? Why didn't we do better? What? And you're like, hang on a second, there's an element of luck in all of this.
Gotcha.
No matter what it is, business, sport,
trying to recognise where the edge of your sphere of influence is.
Yeah.
Like tennis, we can control everything up until they hit the ball back.
Yeah.
And then if they are genuinely just that much fitter, stronger, whatever than we are.
Yeah. Or as you're
and
about
that's the
to
same
hit
with
it.
a lot of sports.
Yeah.
And that's the same with a lot of jobs, same with the fire service. There's something else out there. I mean, a chessboard, maybe. I mean, sorry, there's an opponent there, isn't there? But like maybe a darts board.
Yeah.
There's a few things where there's even like the environmental changes, aren't there? Very few. Most things are there's going to be an aspect of it is completely outside of your control.
Yeah, and that's, like you say, outside of your control. What can you control? Control your controllables. And some things you cannot control, so you have to control what you can control around it. And then understand, like, it's kind of like thinking at it from a bit of a stoic perspective, isn't it? Understanding that then, okay, it's out of my control. I can't worry about it, or I shouldn't.
Doesn't stop us though.
No, of course
Not
not.
always.
Yeah, and that depends on the day. It depends on your emotions, your feelings, everything. Because there are things that you do everything you can control in your environment to do everything you can for another environment, for an athlete or whatever, or for your watch or whatever.
Yeah.
But there are just certain things that come in and just go bang, there's a grenade, and you're like, holy shit, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now adapt, overcome. We plan in pencil. We do the next thing, and yeah, it's. Having that ability, I think one of the biggest things I learned from sport that I took over working in a really high intensity elite environment, and they were serial winners. They wanted to win everything. It didn't matter what it was. It could be a cup against Dog and Duck FC. They didn't care. They wanted to win it. Like we went away on we did a little European tournament, and it was a friendly tournament in pre-season, and we got absolutely smashed by some German team. And you could see this whole squad just went, this year's going to be crap if we ever play like that again. But they needed it because they were a group of serial winners. They needed the hammering to return the year around. And in that year, they won the league, the FA Cup, the Spring Series, and got to the semi-final of the Champions League.
Whoa.
And that was the worst pre-season we'd ever had.
Yeah.
And from a results perspective, they got hammered 6-0 by Bayern Munich. And you're like, we thought we were doing the right thing. We as staff ended up going, are we going to change anything tactically? No, it's pretty sound. What do we need to change? And it was...
It's like a certain material, and I forget what it is. There's a material in science. I think they make helmets and stuff out of it, where when you smash it, when you apply force to it, it fortifies the molecules. Do you know
Right, okay.
Have you seen it?
No.
It's like putty.
Okay,
right?
okay,
Like you can squish it in your hand.
Yeah.
But if you hit it with a hammer, it's solid.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, seriously, they make helmets out of it. They make clothing out of it.
Nice.
And like when you shoot it, it goes hard.
Right.
But you could, if you went up to it slowly, you could push your finger into it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really surreal. And I think about that when I think about that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you need that bang
Yes. Yeah.
to
yeah.
calcify everything and mobilize everybody and go, oh, switch the fuck on.
Yeah.
It's go time now.
Well,
Do you know what I mean? Oh, we're all a bit distracted and all a bit fucking
complacency.
about. Yeah, complacency. Bang, and everyone goes, okay, into position.
Yeah.
The phalanx comes strong and everyone
Yeah.
everyone sort of falls in.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a very, very good way of thinking of it.
How have you managed to transition away from being around, we said about value of association earlier, being around these high-level performers?
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody in the military services isn't a high-level performer. However, from my personal experience, there are people, and we all sit somewhere on the spectrum of what our perception of high performance is, what our perception of pushing ourselves is, our own standards, our own values, our own desire to develop ourselves. You've been around people that are serial winners, which means they're serial personal development, they're serial, what's the marginal gain? Tell me about this, Joe. How can I get better on that? Where's the 1%?
Yeah.
Between people who are clearly toe punting 20% worth of gain into the long grass.
Yeah.
I'm fucking interested in that.
Yeah.
How do you exist around both types simultaneously?
I think that's where you learn to put your coaching hat on, isn't it? And your soft skills have to be different for everyone, and you have to have many hats. Because in the kind of lecturing sports science environment, like it's one of the most prestigious universities in the world, and I'm very, very privileged and love being there.
Yeah.
And I've got students that will ask me really deep, insightful questions. And then I go back to the fire brigade and there's people like that don't.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like...
And if you were a bird...
Yeah.
And you only had one leg...
Yeah.
What? Yeah, what?
But I think it comes down to... Because even in elite environments, there's a massive lack of common sense.
Okay.
So... even in, like some of the best academics, some of the best athletes, they say and do some of the stupidest things, and you look at them and you go, you aren't any different, you're just a human. You have different habits, and sometimes trying to get the best out of every elite level athlete it's like getting the best out of every firefighter. Everyone's different. Some people don't want to do it, some people do want to do it. Some people will put up a massive battle, some people will put up a little battle and then do what you tell them anyway.
Yeah.
Some firefighters are the same.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, you see it. You see firefighters that are really militant. I've only been in a job 3 years, but you see firefighters that are militant. I ain't doing that. And then he gets around to it, and they're the first one to do it.
Yeah.
And you're like,
hang on. Bullshit.
Yeah,
for God's sake.
Yeah, but
it's exhausting.
We working with like...
Get out of your own way.
Yeah. Working with some players like Aaron Cuthbert, G So Young, world's best player with regards to winning untold amount of trophies and world's best player of the year so many times. She was really difficult until you had a good relationship with her, and then she would do anything you asked. And if you could get on her side and, you know, like say to her, gee, this is beneficial for you. She ended up writing and publishing a article in Korea and then another one in like a post-match book thing about how important my coaching of S&C was for her. And because they were asking her stuff in and around your...
I think I read that actually, because didn't you post that on your Instagram as well?
Probably, yeah.
I think there was a link to it or a feature on it.
Well,
I've seen her on there.
She was saying about how like the interview was like, you're the fastest you've ever been, you're the strongest you've ever been, you're always at the ball, blah blah blah, and all this. And she was an incredibly intelligent footballer. She wouldn't run unless she had to run. And when everyone's going, oh, they have to achieve this distance, they have to achieve that distance, and I would be watching G and I'd be like, she ain't moving. But the ball is just getting pinged around, and then all of a sudden she's in the right place at the right time. And the way I sold it to her was, G, if we can make you slightly more physical, no one will ever knock you off the ball. Slightly more fit, you will always be at that. And she bought into that because she knew I wasn't trying to beast her. She knew I spent a lot of time learning about her.
Yeah.
And so it was my coaching approach to her that I think has allowed me to learn, actually, you've got to approach everyone, whether they're elite level footballer or firefighter, you know, elite standard operator and CTSFO, whatever. You've got to approach everyone as a human and find out what they need, first and foremost, because otherwise you end up just trying to blanket everyone and go, this approach is a leadership approach. And it's like, no, that approach is not. That approach is the quickest way to earn enemies.
Yeah,
you know, and
100%.
Yeah, and it's like, actually what I need to do first and foremost is, if I'm your leader, is I need to know personal things about you, and I need to know what makes you tick, and I need to get the best out of you, and I need you to know that I will do anything I can to make you happy at your job. And I think that's where... And
it says there, like you said, about working on that individual strengths as well, for a more strategic approach, rather than that sheep dip, fitness is this, and, you know, just need... Wayne Gretzky, what was his famous quote, was, you know, I'd never go to where the puck was, I'd go to where it's going to be, you know, and it was that. He said he was never the fittest, never the strongest, but he was always there. Yeah. Because, like, similar to you give the analogy of her, you know, she was there when she needed to be there. She wasn't a headless chicken.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of great leadership is as well. It's not massively. Just like arbitrarily, everyone needs to listen to me all the time and do everything I say. No, they need to listen to you maybe when it counts, on a very, very rare occasion. Most of the time, you know, if you weren't here, it'd probably be all right anyway. Yeah. You know, they don't need you all the goddamn time.
That's where it should be. That's where it should be. So my whole mantra as an S&C coach was, I want you to be so good at what you do that I don't need to be here.
Yeah.
So I need you to understand why I ask you to do what you do, and then a basic way of doing what I ask you to do, so that if I'm not here because I'm ill or I'm on jury service or my wife's in labour, you can carry on and do it. And there comes a point in someone's career where you aren't there, and they need to grow, evolve, and do it themselves. And that's my beliefs behind it. And that when I talk about education to students and stuff, it's like, it's not me feeding you information, it's me guiding you down a path so that you can go and get the information yourself. And then you've got to tell me what you've learned in your assignments. You've then got to convince me that what you've learned is significantly better than what I've learned before. And that's the whole point of it. And then it's like, lovely, great, you are now taking the mantle. Go and keep going, keep developing, keep growing. I'm pushing you. It's like the wolf pack analogy. Everyone always used to think the alpha wolf was at the front. He's actually at the back, and it's all of the way the society of the wolf pack is laid out, and you've got the women and the children essentially in the middle, surrounded by the slightly more stronger males, and then you've got the old and infirm, the injured at the front, who are actually guiding the way, and then you've got the bloke at the back whose pack it is watching it and just going, go on guys, go, you know, and I'll stay back here and make sure you all get there. You know,
you see that in military as well, though. Like if you look some of Jocko's books and stuff like that, where it would always be about trying to, the whole thing moves as like a one big homogenous animal, and everyone would sacrifice their position for the leader. Not that they would sacrifice themselves a little, but what I mean is like they need to move forward a little bit to get a vision. Somebody would step out of their position and move forward, and it would all roll and roll over the top of the leader, keeping those strong positions and the correct gunners in the right strategic places, but always roll forward. Keeping those specific positions. And rugby's a great analogy for that. You see that a lot there. I used to think, oh God, his name escapes me now. Oh God, what was his name? You know, really tall guy, black hair. He was England captain for ages. Johnson, he's really great at it. Really great, you know. And never really, he was a physical player, but not because he was an angry guy. I felt like, but I felt he never seemed out of control.
No. So,
do you know what I mean? Because when I hear the word angry, if we said word association, angry to me would suggest you've lost control of yourself. I think he had strategic aggression.
Yes, completely agree. Very
but
assertive.
He never seemed to lose his shit and do silly things. No. Maybe he did when he was younger, but never when I watched him.
No, I think what he always did was and there's one incident where it goes back and he gets red carded pretty quick in a game, and it's where he turned around to, I can't remember who the player was. That player had done a really naughty illegal tackle against one of his team a few games before, or a year before, or whatever, and he was like, I'll get you back. And then he sees him in the bottom of a ruck.
He knows you didn't get seen for that.
And
I know I'm going to get seen for this.
But I'm going to get you.
But I'm still doing it.
And I will
doing it because you need it to be done.
I'll take
and my
one
team need to see me do it as well. Because that's important for them. There's an aspect of that.
There's different, like, you as your leader, just because I'm in charge of something doesn't mean I have to be at the forefront of it all the time and the big voice and this and that.
It means you take responsibility when it goes wrong, and you give away the credit when it goes right.
Exactly, definitely. And you put their needs first.
I love it when there was a famous one where he pulls Johnny Wilkinson out of a ruck or something like that. Even though Johnny was there, he was being productive, he was helping out, you shouldn't be there. And if I need to be there, then I'll be there, or somebody else will be there. You shouldn't be there. And you literally see, people could find it for the YouTube, it just literally grabs him and points him and says, you need get over there.
Do your job.
I know what you want to do, and you're doing it for the right reasons, but you're in the wrong goddamn place. And if I need to get a showing for this, or if someone else needs to stand there and get stomped on, fine. It's not where you need to be.
No, exactly, And I think
that's a massive aspect of it.
Name
of the company.
Okay.
I read, and I've got, because I've got Latin and stuff written all over me. Just give me that one for a minute. What was the thought process behind
Ceteris Paribus? Or I've got a terrible accent. It's like more of a Ceteris. So the kind of whole idea when I've come up with it was, it's taken from like finance really, and it's all other things being equal essentially. And my whole principle behind it, my whole beliefs behind it was, it doesn't matter if you're an elite level athlete or a weekend warrior. Everything around you in the sporting environment, the rules, the constraints of the sport, so the size of the pitch, everything is equal. And no matter who you stand opposite, everything in that environment is equal. So all other things being equal, I want to help you be the best you can be. And that's where it kind of come from. And it was more geared towards amateur and semi-pro like athletes, with respect to actually everything around you, no matter who your opponent is, everything around you in that situation is exactly the same. So everything is equal. It's just you and your opponent. and I want to help you overcome that opponent. So that's where it come from for me. So
I feel like with technology and with sports and sports science and everything like that, it's getting closer to that anyway. You sort of referenced it a little bit when we said about the level of level rugby's getting to, and we don't want to keep banging on about rugby. It's pretty much the same in most sports, though.
yeah,
They're getting to a level of physical performance where just being super fit or super. I mean, football is a great example. It's becoming close to a zero-sum game in differences in what, because there's not like, oh, well, that person's clearly so much faster than everybody. They're all bloody fast.
Yeah.
They're all fast. They're all really strong. They're all really big.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's becoming, there's less like standout athletes now.
Yeah, unless they're like from a physical perspective, the most standout athletes are the skill mavericks, aren't they?
Yes.
Where you watch someone and you go, "Oh my god, that's an incredible pass or an incredible kick," or
Yeah.
you know, yeah. And I think a lot of what I tried to do with the amateur guys is actually educate them on spending more time in and around the sport as well.
Okay.
And it is quite funny because people are like, "You're an S&C coach, like kind of not selling S&C," and I'm like, "Yeah, sometimes because that's what
Depends
I
what
need."
you need. Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, sometimes I'll turn around to an athlete and be like, "Well, you probably only want to see me twice a week,
Yeah.
you know, max,
Yeah.
you know, or you want to be in the gym twice a week." But MMA guys, like their schedules are crazy, right? And I always say to my MMA fighters, I was like, I cannot put anything S&C wise together for you until I have a structured schedule of how your day looks.
Do you think they're the fittest athletes out there? I can't be far off.
No, yeah, I think, yeah, it depends.
And they're so multi-dimensional.
Yeah.
You know, like a footballer is fit in one dimension. So's a boxer, so's a powerlifter,
Yeah.
so's a... CrossFitters maybe a little bit different, as much as sometimes there's a whole lot of noise there, but
Yeah, there's a lot of
MMA fighters... Whoa.
Yeah, I think MMA
Fight training's
fighters-
whole different, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I know you've done a lot of...
Yeah, I've done
a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
That's a different level of fitness. Because even when we talk about controllables, when there's someone attacking you, you're not in control of when you're taking a break.
No.
It's not
No.
It's not interval
Yeah.
training. It's go. Someone's
Yeah.
lying on your head. You can't breathe.
Yeah.
The engine they have is immense.
Yeah, it has to be. You haven't got a choice. If you've got someone pressuring your face into the mat and you're, you know, not able to breathe and you want to keep fighting, you have to have the capability of working in a very hypoxic environment. So, but you can't simulate that with training masks.
No.
You know what I mean? These altitude,
I've got one.
yeah,
Obviously.
quotes, training masks. You can't as much as you want to because essentially all that does is restrict your breathing. It just makes your breathing laboured. It doesn't change the quality of the air, the quality of the oxygen going into your blood. So it's not altitude training. It is just it's.
I don't think it does much for the
respiratory
body
muscle
at
training.
all. The only time I find it remotely beneficial is for my head.
Yes.
Because you can panic when
Yeah.
you're wearing them.
Yeah.
And it can help you control that a little
So,
bit.
yeah,
But that's
so
a bit weird anyway. But I've
the-
done it like that, and it makes you want to rip it off.
Yeah.
But it's like,
but that's like
I don't think it helps me physiologically.
that's like running up 30 flights of stairs with BA set on.
Yes.
So I think the psychological aspect massively outweighs the physical aspect
Oh, yeah.
of those things.
Yeah.
But do I promote it to an MMA fighter? No. What I'd say to him is get that fucker to put pressure on you.
Yeah.
You know, and we do, like, we've done it before in wrestling where you do shark tanking or pressure wrestling, where someone's constantly ramming you up against a cage and putting you under as much. Like, I'm like 95 plus kilos at the moment. I'm probably about 98, 99 at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'll wrestle against some of the 80 kilo guys purely to pressure them for a fight. And an extra 18 kilos or whatever, they're going to be like, fuck. And when they're getting in a position where they can get me off them.
I've had people ask me to, or I've done it with people before. Problem is I'm crap.
Yeah.
Like I'm big,
Sometimes it doesn't
I'm
matter.
strong, and I'm heavy.
Yeah.
But they hurt me.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. Like
Yeah.
someone
You end up just being
injured
a
my
walking,
neck
talking
like
punch
3
bag.
years ago, rolling with them.
Yeah.
It's never felt the same since. I've
No.
got blood, goddamn frustration with my neck.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it again.
No,
Well, actually, it wasn't. There was the person's training partner. The person who I was asked to help was actually cool. That's why I helped them.
Yeah.
Because I knew,
Yeah.
they knew I didn't know.
Yeah.
So they wanted me because I was big.
Yeah.
And they knew that's what they wanted me for. Mm-hmm. But they knew they didn't want to hurt me.
Yeah.
But then the guy they were training with...
Was a dick.
He was a dick.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, yeah, should we do a bit? And I was like, yeah, whatever, yeah. And he hurt me.
Yeah, you get that. But
Just because he
that's
wanted to... I
normally-
think he wanted the ego of I've hurt the
Yeah.
big guy. And
That's-
you've hurt me, but now I don't want to play anymore. Because I don't know.
Yeah.
So
But
what was the benefit?
No, that's just
It didn't
ego.
feel good to you, surely, because
No. It's ego for them, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's all
like
it is.
no one
see
that
that a
knows
lot.
what they're doing was impressed because they know I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
beating me, there's no props in that.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
It's like,
That's almost like the Dunning-Kruger effect, isn't it? Those that think they know don't actually know.
yeah.
And those that know a lot, like, think they don't know
Yeah.
until they become masters. And then, like, I don't know the actual context of it, but I've seen it before. And then someone will come into a gym and they think they know everything, and then they'll start like hammering on people that know they kind of don't know anything because they've been there for a small period of time or they're brand new. And then it's this like, you almost then have like gym enforcers who will then go to that person.
Yeah.
No, let's do this now, and then they put them in their place. And sometimes you need that, but yeah, I think it is bang out of order when you've got an experienced or semi-experienced martial artist who picks on a newbie.
Martial arts has got a massive jump in it in the last 10 years. I think there's a lot to do with the UFC and a lot of the proliferation of all of that. I think the age of the monsters has gone, and like when I was younger and I was taking all lots of silliness drugs, and it was all about massive bodybuilders, and everyone wanted to be massive. There's a combination of fighters, MMA, CrossFitters, functional fitness.
Yeah.
Do you think that puts us all in a bit of a healthier place now, rather than when we were all sticking needles in ourselves?
Yeah, 100%.
A lot of people probably still are, but
no matter what sport you work in, there's always going to be performance-enhancing drugs. Unfortunately, it's kind of a given.
Do you think there should be? You know, we said a minute ago about zero-sum games.
Yeah.
Do you think it would matter if, like, because I always say to people, like, and you will know far better than I will. I'm not saying that any of your athletes take anything, but I'm like, you wouldn't watch the Olympics if the dude or the girl, if there's a difference these days, was a little bit faster than me. You're tuning in to watch a freak.
Yeah.
Do you watch Strongman at Christmas? Yes.
Oh, God, yeah.
Why? Oh, because I think, no, you're watching a freak.
Yeah.
And that's respecting them. I've trained with a few of them
yeah.
years ago. But as like, you're training, you wouldn't tune in.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we want it, but we just don't realise that we want it. We want to see somebody jump over a house. We want to see someone pick up a tank.
Like the Lee Evans
with
sketch.
a hippo in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We want to see that. So part of me feels like if we just said, you know what, fuck it, everyone take whatever you like.
Yeah.
Would that make it okay?
I think it's ethical reasons, isn't it, from a medical standpoint?
What's a performance enhancer then?
What?
From a academic perspective, what do we consider? Because I'm wearing glasses at the minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as a visual aid.
It's a visual aid. It enhances my ability to see.
Yeah, but would you be blind without them?
So the first guy that came up with the telescope
Yeah.
was stoned in the street and beaten because they said man should not have the ability to see into the stars. That is it's not real. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, that's absolutely fine. If we came up with a pill tomorrow that cured the common cold, should everybody be able to take it?
It's hard to know, isn't it?
We'd say I'll be fine.
Well, the thing is it's medical ethics is crazy. So it's a whole massive topic that I'm not particularly great at.
No.
But
because then there's also
technology,
non-physiological ones.
Yeah,
there's
technology is
technology
performance
ones.
enhancing. So if you go and work in elite sport and you've got GPS and you've got video analysis and they're all performance
Shark
enhancing.
suits in swimming,
Yeah.
large drive heads in golf, spoilers on Formula One cars.
Yeah.
Some of these are banned.
Yeah. I think it's really hard to say,
But then if you've got a natural deficit, like if we tested your blood and it was less in testosterone than my blood, and we said, I'll tell you what, to make it fair, we need to give Joe hormone therapy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then people, it's such a crazy
grey,
area.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you get into that level and people are sponsored by whoever, the sponsor is like, I need you to win.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't care how you win. In fact, I'd prefer you didn't tell me how you win.
Yeah.
I just need you to win. What does that mean?
Just win.
Just win.
Yeah.
and then when you no, we didn't tell you to do that.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? You said
just win.
do anything, right?
Yeah.
That's where it gets.
Yeah, unethical.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's so prolific now. Even just a recreate, you go to the local gym.
I know, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So you'd be hard pressed to find a gym that doesn't have some form of performance enhancing drugs, unfortunately. Yeah. But then any stimulant is performance enhancing.
We're sat here drinking coffee.
Yeah.
Do you know?
But do
you buy into nootropics much? I don't mean physically purchase them, unless you do. But like, nootropics as a whole thing,
it's quite a popular thing at the moment. I know a few people that use different nootropics.
Chewing different gums and like caffeine, nicotine, marijuana. all of these are a nootropic aid. Some will claim to give you a mental stimulant. Some will help you with a physical thing. Different greens and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So
how complex do people need to get?
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's really difficult. Like most of the supplements and stuff that are designed out there are designed for the 1%, not the 99%. If you are a average Joe firefighter who wants to stay fit and healthy, hydration, sleep, nutrition, with regards to making sure you have a well-rounded diet.
Because most people are under on them. Hydration.
Yeah, hydration's
oh
the key.
My God.
Yeah. No,
how many people are walking around dehydrated?
Oh man, I'm always
high percentage of the population. But that would fix a lot.
Yeah.
Not all, I wouldn't know what the number is, but I think there's a lot of physiological challenges out there that people are facing that they'd be surprised how much of a marginal or a large marginal gain would be changed. They're probably taking their medication currently. Yeah. That might be remedied by correct hydration and sleep.
Yeah, but you probably find that some people will have a small stack of pills that they'll take every day, including caffeine, including fat burners, including all these other stuff that they don't really need. What they need is...
I did it.
Yeah.
I used to rattle.
Yeah.
I would have that much stuff.
There's a little pill box.
You don't know what's working, what's not working.
Yeah.
Because you just thought, oh, so-and-so takes this. I haven't got time to research it. I just need to have 4 a day.
Yeah.
And it was just ridiculous. And I look back and I think, oh my God, what was I doing? I think I'm fitter and healthier now than I ever have been. But then again, there's so much noise in that. I was also trained better.
Yeah.
So maybe cod liver oil did make a difference. And maybe the creatine ester versus the creatine monohydrate versus the creatine ethyl. You know what I mean? The tribulus and the whatever.
There's a lot of... and the hardest thing to know, especially in and around nutrition, is actually the quality of the research. Because there's a lot of research that does not get published.
Yeah.
So...
Oh, God, I remember reading that about one of the companies, and they said, they only needed, 2 positive... I'll misquote this to hell. But they needed 2 positive outcomes to be able to sell a drug. Mm-hmm. So that meant they could have 98 or 98... Not where they hurt somebody, but 98 examples where it made no difference.
Yeah. And when you look at a lot of nutritional drugs, it's always against a placebo, never against a competitor.
That's what I'm saying.
So a really, really good book, Bad Science, Ben Goldacre. Yeah, really good. Really breaks down, he looks into nutrition, the efficacy behind some of the science and some of the pharmaceutical companies and stuff like that. It's actually a really easy read. And if you're struggling to read, he does a TED talk on it. So Ben Goldacre, I think it's about 10 or 15 minutes long.
Just Ben
Goldacre.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's probably about 10, 15 minutes long. TED talk, and that just breaks down. That's really good. It is, and that was one of the first things I ever read. And so when I first went to university, that actually taught me how to critically appraise the research.
Okay.
Because everyone just goes, oh, we'll put some references in, and they go and look at the abstract and they go, oh, that said this, or they'll read a piece of research and they'll look at what the intro says, and then pull that out and quote the reference, and you're like, no, that's not how it works. If you're critically appraising a piece of research or a piece of work, what you need to do is you need to look at what their results are, and does that fit what you're trying to say? And then once you see their results and then you go into the methods and make sure the methods are clear. And if the methods are clear and you can go look at the methods and you can go, actually, that really doesn't make sense. Then you can start to pull it apart as to, and critically appraising research in any industry isn't about shitting on someone's paper.
No.
It is about finding the limitations and or the benefits, pros, cons as to how you can take their result and fit it to your population. And then you do that against several papers so that you can make an educated conclusion. And this is the problem with nutrition and supplementation, is that it's massively there's massive publication bias, and what might work for you might not work for me. So automatically that changes that straight away. Yeah. So then there's this is evidence based. You're going to get X, Y, Z from it. It's like, well, am I?
Doesn't empower the person though to make a decision, because they can then go, oh, well, if I don't know what it is to believe and I don't really know how to do that level of research you're encouraging me to do, then should I just do nothing? And then I don't, you know what I mean? And they feel like, well, at least this person's promising me something. Yeah. And even if it's a lie, it's better than me doing nothing. And you're just like, well, because they don't like where they are now.
No, yeah, I think...
So someone's selling them that snake oil,
I think
at least makes me feel better.
Yeah, well, there's always a level of placebo with everything.
Everything.
So
It's my lucky socks, Joe.
yeah,
They're my lucky socks.
Yeah.
I perform better when I wear them.
That's you know what? Do you know how many athletes have those little habits? Those little like, oh, I've got to wear this underwear. I've got to wear, or I've got to put this sock on first. And you're like, really? And they're like, yeah, honestly, the last time I didn't, it was a terrible game. You're like, okay, cool, do it. But yeah, I think being able to just look beyond the salesman, like when you go and buy a car, the salesman's always going to talk rubbish. The salesman, that's what they do. It's only when you get in the car and turn the ignition on and go for a little drive do you actually realise what the car is. So yeah, you will probably have to try something out. You will have to try. You don't buy a car without test driving. So you will have to try some supplements and some things
because
to work
people try
for
so
you.
many things at once, though. It's hard.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. When I was,
you can only drive one car.
That's
so
it.
only try one supplement and then see how it goes.
So few of us have a clean system.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, I don't drink. I haven't drank for 12 years. You know, I don't really think I eat. Well, I think everybody probably eats a certain amount of processed food.
Yeah, I do.
But even I know, and I think mine's better than most. I still would be hard to get an accurate assessment of anything.
Yeah.
Because, again, my sleep will be all over the place in the job that I do. You know, so it's always like, well, kind of feels like it's making a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, some of that, like, is if you do buy into it, the psychological benefits will help. But I think you've got to weigh out, like, what are the risks and rewards for it. And it is funny because when you do look into the research, everyone went through this stage of like massive loading of creatine. Everyone was using creatine all the time. Well, what is creatine? Well, you can get enough creatine if you eat red meat. So it's like, well, actually, what do I actually need? Am I a vegetarian? I probably need it. You know, whereas, and what is my sport? You know, am I a rugby player or am I a shot putter? If I'm a shot putter, I'm going to get significantly more benefits than if I'm a rugby player. All right, you will get the residual benefits of having more of it in more of the CB in your system, but you know, it's then, well, what am I investing in and why? What's the point? You know, do I have my foundations right? Do I have my hydration, my sleep, my well-rounded diet? You know, am I getting my 5 a day? Simple, and 5 a day is not enough, really. But am I getting that? Well, no. Fucking start there, please. You know, just start there. Get the basics right. Like, I definitely don't drink enough water.
No.
You know, and I'm terrible for it. And I sit to myself and I think, what can I change? What can I do? And it's like, just drink more water, you soppy sod. You know, and that makes a big difference. And I noticed
I
when
found
I do
small
it,
bottles helps me.
Yeah.
Sounds silly, but like, you know, you see
hate
on
the big
Amazon, the
ones.
massive big 10 gallons. I'm like, I'm not going to carry it.
No.
It's going to annoy me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I drink lots and lots of, where is it? Oh, it's not even there. God, what a hypocrite. I know I've got a glass in front of me. I think I carried it through to the other room.
Yeah.
Metal containers, because I've not looked at the science again. I probably do believe about the leaching plastics.
Yeah.
There's enough tenuous in my mind to go, yeah, I'll bet some of that is leaking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
when it heats up and cools down, like there's a bottle of water in my car in a plastic bottle, and I'm like, that feels warm.
Yeah. And it tastes different.
Yeah, so I'll throw it away.
But
and metal bottle was definitely. You know, you see people with glass bowls. I'm like, hey,
that's just
I think
dangerous.
I'm going to break it.
Yeah.
I'm going to break it.
gonna
My
end up
metal
cutting
ones have been kicked the hell out of, dropping them in and out of fire engines. And I'm like, I'm going to get a glass one. I appreciate it's probably a bit better than the metal.
Yeah.
That's about $7.50.
Yeah.
So I know if I drink 5 or 6 of them, it's manageable. It's
Yeah.
easy to have around.
Yeah.
And I don't care if I kick it around the floor. But yeah, hydration, massive
Mate,
game
massive,
changer.
yeah.
Massive game changer.
And especially in our industry as well, because you need to start the day hydrated because you don't know what you're going to.
Yeah.
And you don't know whether you're going to be able to source water. And one of the things that, like, you always get communications that come around, we do in the brigade, make sure you've got both of your bottles filled up in it. You get a personal issue bottle filled up in the truck in case you get an incident. Lovely. Well, that's 1.5 litres of water. What happens if I need more?
Yeah.
What happens if I'm at a grass fire for 5 hours? You know, and they used to, I don't know if they do now, they used to have on command units bottles of water that would come out. You know, and on a big job, they would supply you with fresh bottles of water, and I don't know if they do now. And you're looking at it and you're like, and they go, oh, it's an expense, but it's a simple thing that makes a massive difference. And you're pushing it on me anyway. Yeah. Oh, where are your 2 bottles? I've drunk them. What do you mean you've drunk them? Well, I've been working hard for 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know, have you got any more water? No, we don't. Oh, well, I'm not working then.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? And you're like, you're talking about my health. I'm parched. I've got a dry mouth. I'm like, I don't really want to collapse in that wildfire out there. You know, and unfortunately, like, I'm never one to turn around and say I'm not doing something. But if I felt like I was compromising myself in that kind of way, because hydration's massive, like sleep. If you have a lack of sleep, 24 hours of lack of sleep is like drinking a litre of whiskey.
Yeah.
Right? So if I've had 24 hours of lack of sleep and then they expect me to go back to work, sorry, fellas, I need some sleep. I need some downtime.
Well, there's plenty of, like you say, with the police studies as well around drink driving versus driving on tired and the reaction speed on it.
Yeah.
It is exactly like that. It's like, drinking a bottle of whiskey. You're getting that. Do you think much about electrolytes? And I'm not. We're not going to quote you on the studies behind it and stuff like that. But I started like 7 or 8 years ago, maybe doing the whole. I think they used to call it the morning cocktails or something. I don't call it anything like that, but I do a bit of the cracked salt in the thing. Those SIS. But then again, you get the pendulum could swing again, where I end up taking more than I need to, just for the hell of taking it.
Yeah, but then if you take a multivitamin, you're probably taking more than you need to anyway.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this because again, we talk about correct nutrition. And we're going to get in rabbit holes here, but the over farming and how much. I think they said like if you'd have eaten an orange 10 years ago, you'd have to eat 4 oranges now to get the same nutrition from eating 1 orange back then. But then does that justify people's decisions to go, well, fuck it then. I might as well just have a fucking McDonald's if it's going to be that bad for me anyway. What's the point? We don't want people to lose hope and go, well, if they're going to inject all that water into the chicken and it's not real chicken anyway, why should I bother trying to eat healthy? So there's an aspect of it. Do you take a multivitamin? Should we be? I mean...
I do.
Do you?
I take a multivitamin, yeah.
I know I should.
Well, this is the thing. I think... Personally, like I've gone through lots of phases where I do, where I don't, where I do, where I don't. Yeah. Sometimes it's a case of actually... It gets me back into a routine, and it gets me like, okay, in the morning, like I'm not a big pusher of like the athletic greens and things like that. However, there is good research on some of the chlorella and some of the spirulina and stuff like that, and some people will massively push it. I've tried it, and the reason I've been taking them recently was because I had an illness and my guts were all over the place. Like in all honesty, I took a load of antibiotics, and then I was doing probiotics and greens to try and sort my gut health out. Yeah. And there's that whole there is a lot of research on gut health and the mind and how your general wellness is dependent on your gut and things like that. Oh yeah. So I looked at it and I went, well, I'll try it. And so back on a multivitamin, back on an athletics greens, just to kind of help my gut system. And I found whether it was that or whether it was just getting into a habit and eating a bit, it helped me settle.
Go back to zero.
So so I think there's a time and a place for a lot of things. I think if you've taken any medication or anything like that, ultimately what the medication does is the medication just destroys all the bacteria in your body. Yeah. So you need to reset it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the problem. And then you need to help it boost it back up. And you, like you say, modern day nutrition, modern day over farming, modern day quality of food isn't quite there. So you need to potentially supplement. But with regards to most supplements, most research is poo. Yeah, so like whey protein's good, creatine's, the research is good. Spirulina, chlorella, the research is pretty good. Amino acids, pretty shit. Research on it. Yeah. Beta alanine is one of those where the research is good, but for you to actually take enough of it, you end up shitting yourself.
Is that what's the one I used to take before I trained and made me feel tingly? Is that beta alanine?
Possibly.
It was the one they used to fill all the pre-workouts with.
Yes, yeah.
And I think it was this. They said it was really supposed to help you stop getting to your lactic threshold. It was.
Oh no, it's like a bicarbonate soda type thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's
like chew it.
Yeah.
It's weird.
So those bicarbs,
beta alkaline. I can't remember what it was.
Those bicarbs. So essentially,
makes your face feel tingly.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Weird shit.
So what they essentially tell you, and you have to take a lot of it. Yeah, it's disgusting. And it's weird. I've been involved in studies where we've looked like, and I've been a participant, and afterwards you're drinking it and you're like throwing up and gagging just to get this water down with all this shit in it. And they're like, oh yeah, one of the side effects is you might end up like, with diarrhea. And you're like, oh great. So I've got uncontrollable diarrhea just so that I can stave off my lactate threshold a little bit. Thanks. So the research in that isn't great. But there was a company that released a book. I can't remember what it is. It was a nutritionist supplement company, and they released a book, and it had really deep evidence base of every single supplementation. If I find it, I'll send you it. And and it had a really deep evidence base of every single supplementation and graded the evidence base as well from like grade A to grade D and how strong it was in support of it and what the benefits and pros and cons were and stuff like that. And it literally covered everything.
Wow.
And it was massive. It was as I had it as a PDF. I think it was like 2,000 pages or something ridiculous. But if I find it, I'll send you it. Because that will give you a lot of answers to a lot of things. And essentially, the supplements that work are protein, whey protein, and creatine. And that's essentially all you really... outside of injectable drugs.
You
know what I mean? So, yeah, it was good.
And even that stuff, I can tell you from experience, has got a significant cost on the other side.
Massive,
Massive cost. Most of my injuries have come from that.
Yeah.
You know, developing superficial muscle far too fast for all my ligaments and tendons to catch up with.
Yeah.
Testosterone, blooming erectile issues. There's just, oh God, the stuff that you don't think about.
No,
going into
you don't want to know about.
That's nobody tells you.
But it goes back to everyone sees the gold medal, everyone sees the tip of the iceberg, no one sees the backstage stuff, do they? So no one sees that until
because it's easier for people to then say, actually, no, I just changed my mind. You mean something went bang?
Yeah.
You probably did. You were forced to change your mind because everything else started unraveling quickly around you, and that was the case for me. You know, my body was things started snapping, things started hemorrhaging, veins started prolapsing.
Not good.
My body, I was like, and you know what? And this is when I used to look at like top level strongmen and top level bodybuilders. And I'm like, some of it's if your body can actually
tolerate it. Yeah.
It's not. Yes, first you've got to want to do it.
Yeah.
Crazy enough to do it. I say that with respect. You've got to be disciplined enough. There's so many like checkouts. Like you could check out at this level. Like, do you really want it? Okay.
Yeah.
Have you mentally got the discipline? Okay. Have you got the finance?
Yeah.
Okay. Can your body take it? And most people, if they can pass the first 4 levels, which most can't, can your body take it?
Yeah.
And most can't. Mine couldn't. I don't think anybody could really afford it. I thought I could just about afford it, working God knows how many jobs. But then my body couldn't take it.
No. And
things went bang, pop.
The thing that you forget as well is when you look at how an elite level athlete does it or elite level strongman, and they have a medical department behind them. So they will have a doctor,
blood work every month.
Yeah, you ain't got that.
And when they do say, no, take a bit less.
Yeah.
Like, you tried to tell me take less.
Yeah.
I'll take more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What does it say? It says take 3 a day. Okay, I'll have 6.
Yeah.
No, seriously, just take 3 because you will get great results on 3.
That's the train smarter, not harder.
That's it.
So, you know,
and I morbidly feel very lucky to, in whatever small capacity I'm still engaging in fitness, and I do a lot. You know, it's like I'm so grateful to just even be able to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Don't need to be on the podium.
Yeah.
I just like to be able to turn up and take part now because there was several moments where it was going to be like,
that's it.
No, you're not doing this anymore at all. Like, not like you were going to die, although there's a few of those moments, but it was more like, no, it's just stop.
I think when you pick up a significant injury as well, there's so many repercussions and so many psychological aspects to it. So there was some research into the psychology of an injury, and what they were looking at was how elite young male athletes took an injury with respect to other catastrophic events in their life. And if they was in an elite environment and they got injured, it was the same as them losing a parent. That was how much of a hole they dove into. And you're like looking at it going, oh my God, is that really how much it means to them? And it's everything. It's their whole life.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. So when you think about how psychologically distressing an injury is, bouncing back from that to be able to get back involved is massive.
Well, because you've made who you are as well, often 90% of your personality.
Yeah.
I am this.
Yeah.
This is all I am.
Yeah. And now,
if I'm not this, who am I?
Yeah.
You know, but also like the flashbacks, because you didn't go there then. I thought you were going to go there. It's like sometimes I can't even watch fail videos.
Yeah.
Like I tore my whole pec off.
Yeah.
You know, and I popped my back
recently.
I didn't talk about it. No. Honestly, like,
yeah.
You know, did you ever see the film 127 Hours?
Yes.
Yeah.
He cuts his own arm off.
Yeah, he cuts his own arm off.
Yeah.
You know the bit where he's trying to cut the nerve?
Yeah.
And it's a really great visual representation because it almost like flashes into the dark mind and it's like a scream or something, and it's the pain of him touching the blade on the nerve. Whenever I think about when I injured myself each time, and there's only twice it was really bad, chest was one of them, it feels like that.
Okay.
And whenever anybody sends me something, or I see something on Instagram, or I'm like, whatever,
Yeah.
I have to either just quickly scroll past it or click off it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't have that at incidents. You know, I'm not
No.
Captain
but
Big Balls, but
no.
I'm like, it's that sound.
Yeah.
If anyone
But it's
like, you ever
personal.
rip a canvas bag,
Yeah.
it's that. That's what flesh sounds like when it rips.
Yeah.
And it rips inside the skin.
Yeah. So sometimes if
Traumatic.
if you hear an ACL go, it sounds like someone stepped on a balloon, like big pop. But if when you think about, like you say, oh, you don't get that at instance, well, you're there to do a task.
Yeah.
So you disassociate yourself from personal, and you just get on with it. But
It scares me.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
When I see anybody doing
personal,
anything in the gym, I'm like, I can't even be here.
Yeah. But there's also some really good stuff in and around how the psychological stuff it causes re-injury rates. So the likelihood is, because you've never got over that trauma, you've never rehabbed properly, and you've never gone through full range, you never pushed that tissue to the same tolerance, it's not robust enough, so you're going to re-injure it. And then there's the whole, okay, cool, I go for a really, really rigid rehab plan, but there's something in that stimulus that I've not met that then sets me off. So there was a sprinter, I can't remember if it was Tyson Gay or whatever, he kept having a hamstring tear. And he would go through significant rehab programs, and he would get to the point, and he would get to like the World Championship finals again, and then he would get a certain distance through his race, and the final race, and his hamstring would go again. And it's like no one has accounted for the fact that it's that stimulus and that stress where he goes, and it's the psyche of that stress that sets him off. And people were like, how can your mind work like that? And there's such a fine interlink between what the mind wants your body to achieve.
Handshake happens at some point.
And no one really knew why, but he would always be overstressed going into that environment because that's where it happened. So it's like anything. If you drive down a road and you've had a car crash, every time you drive down the road, you're going to think about that car crash until it becomes less and less and less and less, and then it's none. If he's not exposed to that stimulus, when he gets to that stimulus, he's going to shit himself. Yeah. And then he's going to hurt himself. And there's an element of,
because his body biochemically is going to prepare in a different way.
Oh, tighten up. Won't
There's a whole different cocktail going on there.
A lot of what you do, like if you do eccentric training, is it's great for hypertrophy, it's great for this. It's actually a lot of it's desensitizing the nervous system to go through greater length. And it's like, well, okay, well, one of the reasons why eccentric training is so beneficial for range of movement is because it's telling your brain and your central nervous system that we are fine. Yeah. Switch the Golgi tendons off, relax, go through length. We are fine, we are fine, we are fine. Obviously there's a limitation, and it will get to a point where it goes, that's enough today, thank you. You know, but then the next time you'll be able to get that, and you'll go again and go again and go again. And that's kind of the point behind it, or PNF stretching, that kind of stuff. Switching the Golgi tendons off, not to trick them, but to teach them, actually, we have got the range, it's okay. Yeah. And then you build the strength through the length, and then you simulate, and the nervous system's amazing. Like the way your central nervous system responds to a really intense training session, it will make you tired and sleepy, and it will upregulate your autonomic. Your heart rate will go through the roof. Yeah. And then if you are, like, we go back to heart rate variability we were talking about earlier, if you go back to that, you can actually see, once you've collected enough data, when you do intense enough sessions, that your body actually needs to chill. Because you can see it in the morning. So like your sleep patterns at night, you can see your lowest resting heart rate significantly higher and stuff like that. There's loads of people out there doing loads of great research in that area. Dan Howes, he's got some interesting stuff, and he just put me in touch with some guy. I can't remember his name. Let me just quickly look him up. Yeah, go. Marco Altini. He's got a little app where you can use your phone and you can take your morning heart rate variability as soon as you wake up, and it will track it for you over time. So it's a really, really simple version of, instead of wearing monitors and things like that. It's a really,
how the hell
really
do you do it on your phone?
You put your thumb over your camera, and I don't know the exact technology, but it's a really good app. And it'll be
similar to the Whoop stuff, won't it? Because they use a
reliable
light. There's some sort of not photovoltaic. That's bloody. That's your solar panels. It's something to do with photo cells, where it basically flicks light into the blood system and measures pressure and viscosity and pressure and speed. And
I don't know the ins and outs behind the technology, but they've validated it against more detailed heart rate variability, including single lead ECG, and it's very, very closely linked. So it's a good piece of kit. but you need to continually monitor it.
Single lead ECG for people, paramedics, echocardiograph, isn't it? It's where
Yes,
when they hook you up on an ambulance,
and then
so
monitor your
arguably
heart
one
rate.
of the most reliable ways.
Yes, yeah.
All the leads and shit.
Yeah, so they monitor your heart rate, blood pressure, all that kind of stuff. So I've got a piece.
Is it echo or electrocardiograph?
It's electro. Echo's like a scan.
Ah, yes.
So it's electrocardiograph, and like you get EMG, which is myocardiograph, which is where muscle activity.
We're going to lose me soon.
Sorry, but yeah. So
back up.
I've at the moment I've been given a piece of kit to play with, which is a single lead ECG, which I can wear for 4 days at a time.
Nice.
To kind of have a look at because one of the studies I would like to look at is heart rate variability and response for firefighters through shift and recovery after shift. And
again, it's gonna be. I love that. Go for it.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of noise in there.
Loads.
You're gonna need to get people.
Yeah.
It's finding clean people. Not drugs, but I mean
you need to collect a significant amount of data as well. You need like I said earlier,
tangible
21 days before
trends.
you even So the study would have to look at people for a few months if we could do it. We can, because the kit's a little bit invasive. Not really invasive, but it's there.
Yeah.
You feel it.
Yeah.
It's more clinical than it is kind of applied. There are some really good pieces of applied kit that are slightly smaller.
There's an appetite for it though.
Yeah,
because we are more interested in wellness and well-being and that longevity of a person's career now, especially as we're moving into our 60s and later.
Yeah,
and we want to keep working and keep moving.
I'll be going till I'm about 80.
Do you reckon? I you know what? I said to somebody today, I've been in 15 years, and I think it'll be at least 65. Yeah. So I've got 33 years left.
That's mad. It's mental, isn't it? So yeah, same.
Still, I enjoy it though. Yeah. So I'm like. And I don't know if I'll still enjoy it in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but I'm like, I could keep doing this for a while.
Well, this is the thing. Like, there's a lot of people that moan about the job, aren't there? And it's a great job, really.
It's fucking great. It's all right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pros, and even the pension's not as good as it was, but it's still bloody good.
Yeah.
You know, and the pay's not amazing, but it's still good. Mm-hmm. And the time off is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and there are so many pros to it, and so much security, and there are people that moan, and I say to them, well, if you don't want to be here, don't be here. Yeah, you know, like, oh, well, you know, I'm hanging on for my pension. Oh, so there are some benefits, you know, 100%. And it's like, you know, if I do understand, because when you're in an environment all the time, things, you know, do change, and things like the guys that signed up 15, 20 years ago signed up for a very different job to what I signed up 3 years ago.
That's fine.
But for me, it's always been one of those where actually it just brings a lot of security. A lot of security in a lot of other ways as well, and a lot of freedom.
It does, mate.
So, you know, it's one of those jobs where people say, oh, you know, you won't be in a brigade long. Why? Why won't I? Oh, because you can go and do that full time. Yeah, but that means like working every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but you miss weekends.
Work-life balance massive now, you know.
Yeah.
In a 24-hour society where we can work from home, we can work on what we like. I think jobs like what we do are actually going to become more popular, not less.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
And it excites me for that.
Yeah, I'd hope so, because we need more people in. You need,
and it will give a greater diversity of people that would not have done it before.
Yeah.
Because it allows such flexibility.
Yeah.
You'll get people who are, you know, like yourself, people colossal experts in a different field altogether. Oh. And when they come to work, they bring all that with them.
Yeah.
And we're richer for it.
How many firefighters in the London Fire Brigade are graduates now? It's unbelievable.
I know.
You speak to people and they're like, oh yeah, I did an undergraduate degree in this, or I did that.
I've got a doctorate. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
Wicked.
I did my doctorate in this, and you're like, fucking hell, really? Yeah. They're like, yeah, and then you can have really good conversations with people.
I find it fascinating.
Like, again, I could talk back about Tim on my watch, right? He's amazing because he's a grumpy old man, but he is a very, very intelligent bloke.
Yeah.
And you can have a really good conversation with him, and he knows his stuff. And he's done 20 odd years, and he's an engineer.
You've got to tickle their belly first, haven't you?
Yeah. It's like
and then they'll play.
Yeah. But if you didn't know, if you come in as a standby and you saw mine and his relationship, you would think he was kind of borderline line bullying me because he was a senior hand and I'm like the buck on the watch.
Yeah.
But then I give it back to him, and he giggles and he laughs and he loves it. And you're like, some people go, oh, I'd never talk to a senior hand like that. And it's like, well, it's my mate.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had conversations with him like about all sorts of stuff, and we have really good debates. And some people cannot get his sense of humour.
Yeah.
Because he's really cut and dry, like really dry. And he says things, and even I sit back afterwards and I think, wow, how has he actually said that? But then, and even he said something the other day to me, and even he turned around to me afterwards and went, I don't think I should have said that.
I was a bit strong.
Yeah.
Know your audience.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, too late, mate, too late. It's out there.
Do you know where book comes from?
No, go on.
Book on the watch. There's so many things like that, and the more I go down this rabbit hole of fire service history, it comes out all the time. The book is obviously, with the greatest respect, it's the least skilled person on the watch.
Yeah.
So back in the day, when we used to have manual pumps,
Yeah.
you'd have the bucket people.
Right. Okay.
What they do is ferry the buckets. They just stand in the line and move the buckets.
Yeah.
And they were the book.
Fine.
That's all they were, because they couldn't pump and they couldn't hold the pipe.
Yeah.
They couldn't push the ladder and they weren't in charge.
Yeah.
They were just on the bucket.
Buckets. Oh, fine.
And little things like that. And you go, God.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Because Off the Run starts in London as well.
Yeah.
You know where Off the Run comes from?
No, go on.
All of the engines used to be a horse and cart.
Yes. Yeah.
So the horses would be kept down beneath the wagons, and the wagon had sat on a run.
Right.
Because when the horse needed to get going, that run would get it going.
Give it the momentum.
It would just pull it off the ramp and it'd go.
Yeah.
But if there was an issue with the truck, they would take it off the run.
Yeah.
Because they need to do some work on it.
Yeah.
And it's little things like that. And you're like, oh, wow.
You know what's
I'm
really
so sad like that. I love that shit.
Yeah, but you know what's really unfortunate? Like, I'm the new era of the London Fire Brigade, that I don't have Southwark and I don't have that. I have, unfortunately, fuck it. Unfortunately, I have Babcock's training. And I had to do the apprenticeship, and I was a little bit like, I don't want to do your apprenticeship because I'm trying to finish my master's in sports medicine. And they're like, no, you need to do this apprenticeship. He'll give you a level 3. What's this? And you take that to another brigade and they go, what have you got?
No.
What have you got? Yeah, don't worry about that. Like, okay, cool. But so unfortunately, you don't have the history of it anymore ingrained into your training, and your training is significantly smaller, and you do get more senior hands in it. They do look down on you a little bit, and I get it.
But you know what? That's why I'm like, because I'm still, I don't know anything really. I'm just trying to learn from everybody else, and that's kind of where the podcast started. I know what I'm trying to do is build the bridge between those people and us. Because we're similar age and sort of stuff like that. Different lives, different experiences, different lengths of time, whatever. But I'm like, they need to get over themselves a little bit and tell people. You haven't got to come on the goddamn podcast, but unless you want to write a book, unless you're going to write an article, unless you're going to get down there on the truck and spend time with the recruit, you haven't got a right to say, oh, you don't. Well, show me. Show me. Tell me. Teach me.
Very, very fortunate with my watch. There are senior hands. They are older. A few of them are ready to retire, but they were very, very good.
Good.
So
got to be generous with your knowledge.
Yeah. So
come on. Anything you know, just tell them.
But that's one of the things where you see it other places, and the senior hands sit in the TV room, and that is it. Like our senior hands are never in the TV. They're always practicing knots and lines. They're throwing ladders up. And you say to them, like when I was doing my apprenticeship, going through my probation and stuff before I got my competency, I'd be like, I need to throw up 135, and they'd be like, sweet, let's go. And they'd be like, right, we're in the middle of doing it, and then talk about it, training, look at these different things, and it was a training, learning environment, and they were always doing things like ground monitors, like Tim's 22 years experience, 10 years retained before joining full time, stuff like that. And they would go to me, right, I'm going to get ground monitor on, I want you to get it to work, I want you to hit that, blah blah blah, and all this. So we'd do that, and then they'd be like, right, Tim would come over and he'd go, you know what, the most efficient way, just open that fully, drop the revs down. It's like, now we can talk, and the water's still flowing. And I'm like, you know what, they didn't show me that at training school. He's like, cool. And that comes with experience, and like you're either very fortunate to have a watch and some senior hands that are like that, or really unfortunate, and then you slip into a hole. And I know there are other stations and other watches.
You've also got to have the character to take the fuck off every now and again, because just because say no now doesn't mean no forever.
No, exactly.
If you come and ask, and they say, oh, fuck off, mate, busy. Yeah. Well, ask him again tomorrow. Like you were saying, ask again, send an email again, send an email again.
Yeah.
And I worry that we haven't got people with as stronger characters as that now. Even as young as you are, with a similar age, it's like some people coming in now, if they get told no once, they're like, oh God, no. Oh God, God, I'm not going to look stupid again. Everyone should embarrass myself. I asked and they said no, and everyone laughed. And I'm like, so fucking what?
Yeah.
Just ask again, and then again, and then again. And they go, oh yeah, I was just messing about with you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but it's like anything, isn't it? And there's this whole thing about making tea. Right, and I don't know what it's like in your brigade, and everyone's like, oh, all of the recruits have been told not to make tea. And the first thing I did when I walked in was went, who wants a cup of tea? Because I know I can make a cup of tea and I need to learn from you lot. And ultimately, me making a cup of tea isn't degrading me, because you go on any building site, you go to any, people make tea. It's just a freaking cup of tea. But I know I can do that quite well.
I always say it greases the lips.
Yeah.
What do you want? I want to learn from them.
Yeah.
I don't want to make tea. I want to learn from them. Okay.
How do you get them to talk? Yeah.
Sit down.
Yeah.
And ask them some questions.
Yeah. And it's really not difficult. It's the simplest task anyone can do, and it opens the door. And as soon as you say, I'm not making tea, they go, who's this jacked up prick?
Fuck you then.
Yeah. And it's not a case of, oh, you don't need to be the tea boy. It's like, well, once you've done it a few times, they offer you tea.
Yes.
And then it's never a case. And you walk in the mess room and everyone shouts, who wants a tea? Or you go out to tea room, who wants a tea? Or this whole thing of shutting the puck out or the recruit out of the TV room. And you're like, why would you do that? Because they're all of the watch are in there, chatting, integrating. I understand the recruit's got their book to work on, but as long as they've done their book piece, why are you then segregating them from the rest of the watch?
No, yeah.
And it's like, that's the whole, we spoke about leadership before, that's the whole kind of things where it's like old school versus evolved, developmental growth mindset. And, you know, I hate the term old school. I hate the term, oh, he's an old school firefighter, or he's an old school. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah. And how can he be old school? He's only been in 20 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not old school. Old school's like 40, 50 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's like, oh, yeah. Well, you know.
I think old school implies sometimes that someone has a character that is now less prevalent. But that doesn't mean that it can't be brought into the times of today. No. Like those principles and values that you're alluding to. Yeah. They don't have to be associated with the past. No. We can do them. They're just not we're just not as used to seeing them at the minute, because people have been brought up differently. Yeah. It's different, it's different economy, it's different technology, it's different everything. Yeah. So we're gonna have to work a little bit harder to embed those characteristics, but it's not an impossible task. Exactly everything you've been saying now is, with all of the noise and all of the lies and all of the false data and all of the people rehashing every different type of fitness, it's harder. Yeah. But we wouldn't say that person's an old school trainer. I mean, like I'll bet you do that. Like you're talking about some of those fundamental principles. You train with people. Yeah. You go, that's old school. Yeah. Well, no, it's just without all the noise. Yeah. The waffle of today.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when someone says someone's old school, it's like, well, what do you mean? Yeah. What is it? And that is the thing. Like, it is just fundamental principles or discipline. And that's not old school. That's just life, mate. Like, it's a disciplined service, right? And you should be doing what your superiors tell you, unless you feel it's going to kill you. In which case, you have the right to say, "Gav, I'm not quite sure." Yeah.
And that's rarely ever.
Yeah.
It's rarely ever. Do you know what I mean? Don't hang that hat and just for a reason to say no to so much stuff.
Hey, just be lazy.
As we close, I wanted to sort of play around with a little bit of a quick fire round, if we could. Yep. And it's just based around several of the things that we were talking about the other day. And sort of the first one is around hard work or talent. Do you know what I mean? We spoke about old school principles there. Yeah. Which one's most important?
Talent doesn't get far if they don't work hard, right? So I can't remember the exact quote. But yeah, I think you have to have an element of both, but you won't go anywhere if you don't work hard.
Love it. You do work in a lot of gyms. You go around a lot of different places. Where are you most comfortable, and where do you feel like it's most appropriate for athletes? Are you a spit and sawdust, or are you a nice shiny steel, pristine gym?
No, a spit and sawdust gym. Or I'm not a massive fan of like fitness classes or anything like that, but I love wrestling. Yeah? Yeah, I love wrestling. I feel like that's just, if my week is complete if I've got some wrestling in. Love it. Yeah, so as I did wrestling in West London with Leon Rattigan, who was GB Commonwealth medalist. I did a couple of years under him, and I've done catch under James Evans Nicole for years. So catch wrestling is old school British submission wrestling. Yeah. And it's just the brutal art. Like jiu-jitsu's the gentle art.
I was going to say
catch wrestling's the brutal art. So if you're a police officer or a firefighter and you want to learn how to restrain someone, catch wrestling is the way to do it. Jiu-jitsu's not, because you tend to lie on your back too much. Okay. Catch wrestling, you grab people and you fucking rip their arms off until they do what you want. So it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's why my shoulders aren't pretty good.
I was about to say, has any of that had a lag on you? Is there any? Are you carrying stuff?
My shoulders play up for it. Yeah.
Oh, dude, you gotta be careful. You're young. Just worry. Come on, don't be too scary with it. 2 people you'd love to sit and have dinner with.
Bruce Lee. I know that'd be cool. And my granddad, who's passed away when I was about 3.
Love that.
So yeah, a little
Why
bit
your
different.
granddad?
He's got some stories from the war and stuff that no one had ever listened to or really he'd expanded on. I'd love to hear, and I'd just love to give him a hug. Yeah.
Sit and have conversations with old people.
Yeah,
it's important shit.
Yeah,
It's kind of the whole point of the podcast. I'm like, morbidly, I look forward to somebody listening to something when we're dead. When someone's gone.
Yeah.
When someone's passed away and they go, "Hey, did you ever meet Joe?" They're like, "No. I'll tell you what. Listen to this. This was when he was 30.
Yeah.
Fuck me. Imagine your kids listening to this.
Yeah. That'd be amazing.
That'd be weird.
Yeah.
Surreal. If you could listen to your granddad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How amazing would that be?
There was again, I'll talk fucking for England. This is a problem. There was a documentary on World War II, and we didn't realise he was actually in it. And we was watching the documentary, and he come up, and we were like, "Holy shit!" So yeah, that's pretty cool. So to actually spend some time with him would be amazing. So yeah.
I love that. What's more important? We're not taking part.
Oh, right. So this is what's hilarious.
Not what you tell your clients. What would you do?
Yeah. So, mate, I've been in an elite winning mindset team for far too long of my S&C career to say taking part is everything. It ain't. Winning's amazing.
Because you've got kids now as well.
Yeah.
So, it's that aspect of it.
Yeah, but at the same and it was quite hilarious. One of the guys who got our service medals, obviously I didn't get one because I haven't done 5 years, and someone went to me, "Oh, we'll make you a cardboard one." I said, "Don't worry, mate, I don't accept participation medals." And they were like, "Wow, okay." I was like, "Well,
Gave mine to my daughter. I don't know where it is.
Yeah,
fucking lost it.
I know. Yeah, but that was my mindset on it. So.
Absolutely, mate. I always say to my daughter, no one pays you for just showing up.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, they do, unfortunately, in the world these days, but nobody wants that.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Life still rewards the winners. It does count.
Yes.
You've got to show up and add value. Don't just fucking be there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just for the hell of it.
Yeah, exactly.
BA1 or BA2?
It shouldn't matter. My opinion,
Mm-hmm.
a good BA2 is just not on the radio.
Yeah. It's the whole wolf pack thing as well.
Yeah.
You can lead from the front, lead from the back.
Yeah, so I've done drills and gone into jobs with guys with 16 plus years, and they're like, "You talk so much as a number 2, I knew we was in good hands."
Yeah.
So, and then I've led other recruits into jobs, and they've been like, "Oh yeah, fine, sweet, lovely," and we just talk loads. So it's fine. So it shouldn't matter.
Love it. Good point. Command support or casualty care?
Casualty care all day long.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think you can learn a lot from standing back. This is like...
Massively, yeah. But I think all my other roles, I stand back.
Yeah.
So I like to get hands on with something.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I would love to see us do a little bit more work with the NHS. I know there's a big old union and all that sort of jazz, but I like the American model.
Yeah.
I would like to be trained up as a paramedic. I'd quite like that.
Yeah.
Or even just an EMT.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I wouldn't say
with the
no.
greatest respect to my brother-in-law, paramedics, I think you have to have a degree to do it. I know you've got one, I haven't.
Yeah.
So maybe that's beyond me. I don't think it is, but I'd love to see more of us have the ability to upskill to be
massively.
a paramedic. I think it would help the public, it'd help the services, the NHS need it.
Yeah.
I think we'd rather be doing that than if we were going to take on somebody's stuff, I'd rather take on some of the NHS stuff than some of the police's stuff.
Oh, 100%. I'd rather do more of that than, I know home fire safety visits for smoke alarms are great. But
I want to go to emergencies. I want to go to people that need me.
Yeah.
For cool stuff.
You join the job to go out on the blue lights.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's do more of that.
Yeah.
First to volunteer or let someone else go?
I tend to volunteer all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that will change over the next 5-10 years, but I tend to put my hand up to go, bang, yeah, I'll go, I'll do this, I'll do that. So yeah, we had a warehouse fire in Edmonton 2 days ago on a day shift. And I heard through the radio, "Joe, do you want to wear?" I was like, "Fucking yes!" And I was running back to the truck to get my set. So, and then I went. My leading hand, he went to me, "Do you want to?" So there was another girl who's just finished her book, so she's just come off her diamond. So she went. They went to her, "Do you want to wear?" And she was like, "Yeah." And her sub officer went, "Find someone to wear with." And I've turned around to my leading hand and went, "I'll take her in, so you don't have to wear." And he went, "Yeah, all right." And so, yeah, I can definitely volunteer instead of sit back.
Final one. Think about characteristics for both athletes, but firefighters and that sort of stuff. What are some of the essential characteristics for being the best version of yourself and what you do?
I think you just need to be open and honest.
Okay.
Because, and everyone goes, oh yeah, hard work, dedication, this, that, and the other. I think you need to be open and honest, because if you can be open and honest, everyone around you can help you develop what you need to develop to be hardworking and be the best version of you. Whether you're an elite athlete or a firefighter or a doctor or whatever, if you're not open and honest about you, yourself, your failings, your features, your strengths, and your potential weaknesses, no one else will know, and no one else can help you develop. So open and honest is definitely the key. And you don't have to tell everyone your life story, but your team need to know.
Love it. Dude, thank you so much for that. I've literally boshed freaking 2.5 hours.
I know.
As I always said to people, like, there's no such thing, like, podcast is never too short or too long. It's whether or not you're interested in the person. And I think I could have listened to you for another 3 hours and just swim into the ocean of knowledge. And I said, as we sort of took a break a little bit earlier, there's a myriad of things that I haven't asked you, but, who knows, in a couple of years' time when you've got your doctorate, we'll sit down again and put the world to rights.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
mate.
I really appreciate that.
No, appreciate it.
Take care of yourself.
Firefighters Podcast is a global podcast seeking to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operators. Through a series of wide-ranging conversations celebrating those within our sector, we seek to encourage and support this incredible group of people. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield, and I speak with individuals from all walks of life who I sincerely believe can add value to or develop those who have chosen this life path. Please support your emergency services wherever you are in the world, and thank you for listening.